Chapter 12-15. Towards the end, there were basically no impurities eliminated. It was purely an increase in cultivation. But this was the first time Tai Butian had experienced such an increase. How could she not be agitated? No one would be able to remain calm with such a rapid increase in cultivation. Her Majesty excitedly circulated her energy over and over again, like a child who had just gotten a new toy. Then, she entered a meditative state. She entered a deep state of meditation. Chu Yang was really so miserable that he had a nosebleed. Looking at a peerless beauty, and a woman who loved him deeply, naked in front of him. Yet, he couldn't do anything. This kind of punishment was even more unbearable than taking an aphrodisiac with nowhere to vent. There was still some comfort in taking an aphrodisiac with nowhere to vent. Because there was nowhere to vent. But the problem now was, there was a place, but he couldn't vent. How depressing. But Minister Chu's dejection was quickly replaced by shock. Tai Butian's cultivation had soared. It could be said that she had a meteoric rise. Such speed made Chu Yang feel terrified. That night, Chu Yang diluted the wine for Tai Butian step by step and then let her drink it to increase her cultivation. Then, he used more than 80 kinds of heavenly treasures in the tribulation space to strengthen Tai Butian's foundation and to complement the medicinal effects of Shui Leihan's wine. He even used the primordial violet vapor to open up Tai Butian's meridians every time. He also used the celestial qi from the heavenly golden hand to stabilize Tai Butian's primordial spirit and increase her cultivation. This process was repeated many times. Such a method of improvement and such a huge amount of resources were used without regard for wastage. Until now, on this heavenly continent, there were only a few people who could do it. It could definitely be said to be unprecedented in history. But every time, Chu Yang would feel a huge shock. For the first time, Chu Yang had diluted Shui Leihan's wine very thinly. Tai Butian went from a third-grade martial king to a fifth-grade martial king. The second time, he dared to use a larger amount of medicine. In the end, there was a whoosh. She went straight to the third grade. This kind of speed made Chu Yang want to bite his fingers. On the third time, she went to a fourth-grade martial emperor. If someone were to see such an improvement at the side, they would definitely be scared silly. Such a thing could actually happen in the world. What was called reaching the heavens in a single bound? This was it. After the 100th time, Tai Butian successfully broke through to a first-grade martial saint. He would become a true expert. What Chu Yang found most frightening was not Tai Butian's advancement in cultivation, because Tai Butian's advancement in her cultivation level was something that he had expected. He had diluted a lot of wine. It was so much that it was almost as much as what he drank himself. Even after drinking so much, Chu Yang only managed to raise his cultivation level from the early stage of the saint level to the peak stage. However, Tai Butian had drunk so much of it. But, she had been able to advance from the third grade of king-level expert to 25 grade. This didn't mean that Tai Butian's aptitude was better than Chu Yang's. Firstly, it was because Chu Yang's cultivation level was higher. The higher one's cultivation level was, the harder it would be to break through. For example, if a martial king were to fight against an 8th grade martial king, then it would be considered pretty good to fight against two of them. Moreover, a grade 1 martial emperor could defeat an 8th grade martial emperor. However, there could be more than 4 of them. A martial monarch could fight against an 8th grade martial saint, and a martial saint could fight against at least 58th grade martial saint. This did not include special ranks like the saber emperor and the sword emperor. Secondly, he had already taken too many heavenly treasures. So, his body had naturally developed a resistance to them. However, although Tai Butian was the emperor of the world, she didn't have the same opportunities as Chu Yang. Moreover, she had the help of endless strange resources that originally didn't exist in this world. The most terrifying thing about Chu Yang was the bottleneck that Tai Butian encountered when breaking through her cultivation level. Every time Chu Yang himself advanced, he would usually advance a few grades at once. However, the only thing that could make him feel the obstruction of the cultivation level bottleneck was usually the last one. However, Tai Butian had encountered bottlenecks every time he had ascended to this stage. In fact, He had encountered bottlenecks every time he had ascended. Every time, she had to grit her teeth and charge forward. Chu Yang was very depressed and very surprised. Others didn't have such a situation. For example, Rui Butong, Dong Wushang and the others had also advanced by leaps and bounds. But they weren't like Tai Butian. 25 grades, 25 rounds of torture. And it was intensive torture. It was really difficult for this delicate emperor of a generation to endure. In the end, Tai Butian had reached the limit of what she could bear. She had also reached the limit of the medicinal effect. Only then did she finally stop. First-grade martial saint. Although Tai Butian had broken through so many levels consecutively, although Chu Yang tried his best to protect her, her spirit also felt endless fatigue. Even when she finally walked out of the bathtub, it was Chu Yang who carried her out. Almost as soon as she left the bathtub, she fell asleep. She didn't even know when Chu Yang had placed her on the bed and covered her with the blanket. And by this time, the sky had already reached the last bit of darkness before dawn. The morning court assembly definitely couldn't be held again. Chu Yang could only hurriedly find Feng Qiliang and ask him to announce the cancellation of the morning court assembly. When he saw Feng Qiliang, Chu Yang was shocked by this seventh madam. He saw that Feng Qiliang was actually covered in a thick layer of filth that looked like black mud as he cultivated. Chu Yang patted his forehead. He was extremely speechless. He heaved a long sigh. Oh my God, he had neglected something. He had forgotten to tell Feng Qiliang that he wanted to take a bath. In the end, after returning to the palace and confirming that everything was fine, this honest chief steward of the imperial household drank the medicinal wine. Then, just like the first time Chu Yang drank it, endless filth came out of his body. However, after sensing the miraculous effects of this medicinal wine, Chief Steward Feng was so agitated that his whole body trembled. He became even more careful, afraid that washing off these things would affect the improvement of his cultivation. He actually didn't dare to wash them off, they stuck to his body just like that. By the time Chu Yang found him, there was already no need to wash them off. Because these things had already dried and stuck to his body, together with his clothes. And they were accompanied by continuous perspiration and that stench spread to 15 kilometers with the wind. The moment Chu Yang went in, he was hit by the stench. He repeatedly retched and fled in a sorry state. With this kind of smell, even the most smelly weasel would also die from the stench after going in. Under Chu Yang's disdainful gaze, Chief Steward Feng very awkwardly peeled off these things on his body piece by piece. Feng Qiliang was definitely a meticulous person. He even took a basin and carefully placed all the filth he had peeled off from his body into it to see exactly how much filth there was on his body. At last, he saw that it was a whole basin. Chu Yang had long reached the top of a big tree and looked up at the sky. He took in big mouthfuls of fresh air. He couldn't lower his head. Once he did, he would see Chief Steward Feng peeling off from his body. Minister Chu was worried that he would vomit violently and fall from the treetop. Haha, after removing the 15 kilograms from the copper basin, these things add up to a total of 43 kilograms after drying. Feng Qiliang's voice sounded, and there was actually some pride in his tone. They were all rubbed off from my own body, Chu Yang retched. Hurry and inform them to cancel today's morning court session. Then, with a swoosh, he flew away. He really couldn't stay here any longer. Feng Qiliang hurriedly agreed. He was also dumbfounded when he looked at the time. It was already past the morning court session. He hurriedly changed his clothes and hurriedly went to inform them. However, Chief Steward Feng forgot that he had only peeled off those filth and hadn't washed them off. His body still stank unbearably. However, Feng Qiliang himself was already somewhat used to it. In order to prevent others from discovering him, he had shut himself in his room and shut the doors and windows tightly, spending the night in this kind of smell. He had already lived in an abalone shop for so long that he didn't know the smell anymore. He hurriedly walked along the way. Chief Steward Feng, who was in a hurry, didn't know at all that he had caused a commotion in the palace. The eunuchs and palace maids along the way all covered their noses and rushed to a certain place to vomit after Chief Steward Feng walked past. What's wrong with Chief Steward Feng? Even if he fell into the latrine pit and didn't wash, it wouldn't be so smelly. Along the way to the main hall with the pungent smell, Feng Qiliang said, "Her Majesty's message has arrived. All the officials stood solemnly. Then, everyone sniffed together. What's this smell? Why is it getting stronger and stronger from afar? Chief Steward Feng carried a stench that could wreak havoc in the world. With a calm and rigid expression, he swaggered to the center of the crowd and said majestically, "Her Majesty's message is to cancel today's morning court session." In just a short moment, the old and frail pavilion master Li coughed and gasped for air. In an instant, there was a foul stench. The pitiful pavilion master Li's eyes rolled back and he choked on his breath. Gudong, he collapsed to the ground. Chief Steward Feng was greatly surprised. "What's wrong with Cabinet Secretary Li?" Everyone looked at him as if they were looking at a monster. "What's wrong? You're still asking what's wrong?" Everyone held their breaths and retreated more than 10 steps as if they had seen a snake or a scorpion. Then, someone directly turned around and ran out of the main hall. He walked for a long distance without looking back. Only then did the sound of vomiting could be heard. At this moment, the unconscious Cabinet Secretary Li suddenly got up and scrambled out. The poor old man's eyes rolled back and his goatee trembled. He kept muttering, "This old man stinks to death. This old man stinks to death." The military officials were defeated in an orderly manner. Chief Steward Feng Qiliang had conquered the elites of the highest level in the Ironclad Empire's imperial court with just his own smell. This kind of achievement. It was unprecedented in history and would never be surpassed in the future. It could become a masterpiece through the ages. Feng Qiliang was still scratching his head in puzzlement. Why didn't anyone ask the reason for the morning court session being cancelled today? But he didn't know that everyone was already thankful that they hadn't died from the stench. Who would be tired of living and actually dare to ask questions while enduring such a strange stench? During the morning court session the next day, His Majesty the Emperor discovered that there were a lot fewer officials. It was said that all of them had applied for sick leave. The remaining people all had sallow faces and expressions of lingering fear. They asked in puzzlement, but the officials stammered. No one was too embarrassed to say it out loud. They couldn't possibly say that they hadn't eaten anything since the morning court session yesterday because of the stench, right? It was also because of this that everyone came to a common understanding. Eunuchs don't have that kind of thing. Once that kind of thing. The smell was indeed unique since ancient times. Chapter 12:16. That night, Chu Yang lay in bed with Tai Butian in his arms, watching the beauty sleeping peacefully in his arms. Not only did he not feel any desire, he instead felt infinite happiness and satisfaction, as well as a kind of peace in his heart. As a woman, I am not strong. As an emperor, I have a clear conscience. As a human, I have no regrets. This was Tai Butian, his own woman. He couldn't help but think of Mo Qingwu. This was the first time he thought of Mo Qingwu after coming to Ironclad. It wasn't that he didn't want to think about it, but he didn't dare to and was too embarrassed to think about it. Even if he thought about it, he immediately forced himself not to think about it. When he had just arrived, Chu Yang's heart was filled with apprehension. He forced himself not to think about Mo Qingwu. Because, he felt that if he thought about Mo Qingwu when he was with Tai Butian, he would feel guilty and uneasy. Moreover, this was a kind of blasphemy to Mo Qingwu. But Tai Butian was already pregnant with his child. What could he do? Abandon his wife? Or just take the child away? Abandon Tai Butian in the lower 3 heavens? Then, am I still human? But give up Mo Qingwu for Tai Butian? Then, the same question, Chu Yang, are you still human? But here came the problem. You are one person, but your heart is divided into so many parts. Whether it is to Mo Qingwu, Tai Butian, or Wu Qianqian, it is all unfair, because they are all unreserved and wholeheartedly devoted to you. Although it is the most common thing in this world to have multiple wives and concubines, can you really be wholehearted to every one of them? But now, he let go of his own thoughts. He stopped running away and faced his own heart head-on. Sooner or later, he would have to face it, so the sooner the better. Yes, when he was with Mo Qingwu, thinking of other women was a kind of blasphemy to Mo Qingwu. But now Chu Yang knew. When he was with Tai Butian, thinking of other women and facing Tai Butian. Wasn't that also a kind of blasphemy? As he thought about it, Chu Yang's heart was in a mess. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh. These are all good women like peerless geniuses. Am I such a playboy? Chu Yang asked himself. Playboy? Honestly, it couldn't be considered that. If there was one woman who could make him admit that he was a playboy, it would be Zi Sheqing. His teasing, whether intentional or unintentional, or the adoration that was hidden in the depths of his heart. He was indeed a playboy. But with regards to Wu Qian and Tai Bu Tian, how could Chu Yang be considered as unfaithful? Even if he wasn't unfaithful, if he had to make a choice now, which one would he give up? With a belly full of complicated thoughts, Chu Yang fell into a deep sleep. In the afternoon, Tai Butian finally recovered. She was surprised at once. Chu Yang is sleeping right beside me. This guy actually slept for a whole day. It's strange. However, he heard Chu Yang let out a long sigh. So this guy wasn't asleep. What's wrong? Tai Butian asked gently. Chu Yang turned over and hugged her in his arms. He whispered, Tian, do you think I'm a playboy? Tai Butian was taken aback for a moment. She thought for a while. I don't know. I don't think so. She sighed and said, in this world, there are many couples who are faithful to one another until death. Moreover, they won't look twice for their whole lives. Women like us admire such men, and also yearn for our men to treat us like that. However, such a man may not necessarily be the man we love deeply. Tai Butian said softly, do you know that after our battle back then, more than 10 million soldiers died there? Especially in the main areas where Great Zhao's soldiers were deployed, men became precious because of their rarity. Many brothels changed their professions. Changed their professions? Chu Yang was stunned. Changed their professions. Tai Butian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You should understand what I mean. Therefore, even though I'm a woman, I have no choice but to issue an edict to encourage men to marry more. Otherwise, the ratio of men to women would be seriously imbalanced and there would be chaos in the world. Tai Butian smiled lightly. All right, now I've tasted the consequences. I, the emperor, have become someone else's concubine. Chu Yang was originally in a heavy mood. When he heard this, a surge of evil fire and an inexplicable excitement suddenly surged in his heart. Tai Butian obviously didn't know what kind of consequences her words had triggered. She looked at Chu Yang and said very seriously, Chu Yang, women are very fragile and delicate. In a chaotic world, we may be jealous or throw tantrums, but we can't do anything about such a world. Therefore, if you can protect us and take good care of us, she said quietly, I won't allow you to be fickle in love. However, for us whom you also like and love deeply, please give us happiness and safety, as well as peace of mind. Chu Yang nodded. Tai Butian's words were very magnanimous. However, Chu Yang knew that although her words were beautiful, her heart was definitely not so. I won't allow you to be fickle in love. For us whom you like and love deeply, the meaning of these words was very deep. Tai Butian admitted that she was a latecomer. Therefore, although she was against it, she couldn't oppose it. To oppose it would be to deny herself. Therefore, the subtext of this sentence was, other than these few, don't think about anything else. Such a narrow-minded woman. Chu Yang pinched her nose and deliberately put on an angry face. However, if you want to be a concubine, you must have the awareness of a concubine. If you don't serve me well, I will sell you off at any time. Now, what are you waiting for? Tai Butian was very embarrassed. She pinched him. You're such a pervert. Chu Yang chuckled and flipped over. Come, as an official, I will serve His Majesty. As a concubine, you can serve your man. It's night time again. As the two of them ate, Chu Yang seemed to be deep in thought. Is it because of your icy heart jade bone divine technique? Or is it because of your emperor divine art? Why are you breaking through bottlenecks so frequently? Tai Butian paused for a moment and smiled. I thought you wouldn't ask. Yes, it's because of my icy heart jade bone divine technique. It's because of your heavy elixir that I have some small achievements in icy heart jade bone divine technique. Moreover, This martial art is a martial art that no one has ever practiced to great success. Even my master only has the chant for it before great success. Therefore, I can only control my own cultivation and carefully experience every breakthrough. I'm afraid that in the future, if there's no way out and I don't have any experience, then... Tai Butian smiled bitterly. Chu Yang immediately understood. Lan Meixian's incantation was incomplete. Tai Butian was obviously keeping an extra eye on herself. She was preparing to work hard to break through. If she reached that stage in the future, she would open up her own path. Chu Yang sighed. Tai Butian also sighed. Both of them knew what the other was sighing about. Lan Meixian had taken in a younger brother and now betrayed him. Of course, this was intolerable. However, Tai Butian didn't completely believe it back then. I'm just a woman from the lower three heavens. Although I'm a royal family, in the eyes of the experts of the upper three heavens, so what if I'm the emperor of the lower three heavens? Why would such a great thing happen to me? Tai Butian smiled lightly. A meat pie has fallen from the sky, but the only thing I'm afraid of is being smashed by it. Therefore, I have no choice but to guard against it. Chu Yang, this is also the benefit of being born in a royal family or a great clan. You think a lot. Give up on this technique. I can't give up. Now that I've reached this stage, I can feel that if I go any further, I'll reach the legendary telepathy, said Tai Butian. Chu Yang was excited. Although Tai Butian didn't say it explicitly, he understood what she meant. When I reach the telepathy level or even higher, I'll be able to I'll be of real help to you. Telepathy, I can see through people's hearts with my heart. The following month was uneventful. Tai Butian handled the daily affairs of the court. That Prime Minister Wang, who used to be favored by the emperor, was immediately dismissed by Tai Butian. He was expelled. Towards the doubts of the officials, Tai Butian didn't give an explanation. The emperor became more and more domineering and majestic. All the military officials trembled in fear. Prime Minister Wang didn't submit a petition to complain either. Obviously, he already knew that Tai Butian was already very merciful to spare the lives of his entire family. When they were free, Chu Yang and Feng Qiliang sparred with Tai Butian. They consolidated their cultivation. Whether it was Tai Butian or Feng Qiliang, both of them were improving at a rapid pace. Ever since Tai Butian's meridians and marrow cleansing, she became stunningly beautiful. Chu Yang often looked at her and was dazzled. Her originally fair skin had now become sparkling and translucent like jade, almost giving off a transparent feeling. When the three of them were practicing, the little fellow Tai Yang often sat at the side and watched in boredom, yawning from time to time. When Chu Yang suggested teaching him martial arts, the little fellow was adamantly against it, shaking his head like a rattle drum. No, your martial arts aren't good enough. The little fellow pouted. It's not suitable for me. I have my own martial arts. I'll start practicing when I'm 2 years old. Chu Yang had just glared when the little fellow started to act coquettishly. Father, just believe me, Minister Chu had no choice but to give up. The little fellow smiled triumphantly. It wasn't easy for me to relax for a few days. How can I continue practicing? That's so boring. Besides, which martial arts should I practice? A month and a half passed by quickly. This night, knowing that they were about to part, the two of them looked at each other in silence. They didn't do anything or say a word. Early in the morning, Chu Yang stood up. Tai Butian quietly helped him put on his clothes and tidied him up, just like a considerate wife who was about to send her husband off on a long journey. I'll wait for you. Take care. Early in the morning, the emperor's tour of the south began. Banners covered the sky and the ceremonial procession was grand. Dressed in splendid attire, the emperor looked dignified and solemn. She stepped onto the dragon carriage and began her first tour of the world in her political career. A long howl came from afar, getting further and further away, shaking the clear sky. Tai Butian didn't turn back. She sat upright in the dragon carriage and closed her eyes. A teardrop silently slid down from the corner of her eye. I'm your wife, but I'm still the emperor of this world. You must take care. I'll wait for your return. Chapter 12:17. When Chu Yang and Tai Butian were bidding farewell in the lower three heavens, there was also a send-off in the Heaven Imperial Court. Looking at Zi Xueqing's white robe, escorted by the guards of the Demon Palace towards the south, the Demon Empress' eyes were solemn. I didn't expect her to survive such a cruel rebirth. The beautiful lady in white had admiration in her eyes. Back then, I only split my soul 81 times at the soul-splitting platform. After one time, I asked for it to be stopped. The Demon Empress looked at her sister coldly and said, "This is because your heart is not firm at all. How can you talk about turning into a human?" The beautiful lady in white felt ashamed and said, "However, this also shows that Zi Xueqing's heart for the person she loves is extremely firm and earth-shattering. Now that her wish has finally been fulfilled, I feel very comforted and gratified. I only hope that she can stay with the person she loves forever and be happy." Ha ha ha. The Demon Empress actually laughed out loud. As she laughed, she looked at her sister mockingly. "Meng Meng, you're still dreaming. You're as innocent as you were when you were young." I'm dying of laughter. Do you really think that Zi Xueqing went through such pain for a man? The beautiful lady in white was stunned. What do you mean? Isn't she doing it for her man? Maybe it's part of the reason, but it's definitely not the main reason. The Demon Empress' eyes were deep. I can only say that this woman will be a very scary person in the future. 81 times at the soul-splitting platform, 81 times at the heartbreaking spring, 81 times at the demon forging cave, 81 times at the demon annihilation thunder. The Demon Empress smiled lightly. Not simple, not simple. The beautiful lady in white was puzzled. She asked, "Big sister, is there a heavenly secret in this?" "Of course there is." The Demon Empress said deeply, "You've also cultivated the Sky Demon Mystic Classic. You should still remember the first sentence of it." "Of course I remember the first sentence." The beautiful lady in white said without hesitation, "The Sky Demon has no way. Heaven and earth is home. If one wants to reach the top, one must be a life raft." "Yes, it's the life raft." The Demon Empress' eyes flashed. "I don't understand. Moreover, I always thought that these words were useless." The beautiful woman in white frowned her beautiful eyebrows. "Moreover, the raft. It's something used for water. Ascending to the peak means going higher. It doesn't make sense at all. Perhaps it was written randomly by predecessors for the sake of rhyming." "Nonsense." The Demon Empress rebuked angrily. The predecessors had gone through thousands of generations of exploration and accumulation before they created the Sky Demon Mystic Canon. Not a single word in it is meaningless. If you want to reach the pinnacle, you have to make a life raft. The Demon Empress said in a deep voice, "There was once an almighty person who said, in the mortal world, there is no such thing as a mortal. It was originally a sea of bitterness. Everyone was floating up and down in it. There is no exception. Do you understand now?" The Demon Empress said indifferently, "The life-crossing raft. It's a human body. Why do we demons need to transform into humans at the beginning of our cultivation? And this transformation is the most important stage." The Demon Empress said, "Everyone is struggling in the sea of bitterness, but only those who struggle in the sea of bitterness can reach the other side of the sea of bitterness. This is the origin of the life-crossing raft. Even for our Sky Demon race, if we want to reach the end and become the supreme existence, we have to transform into humans first. Only then can we reach the highest level." The Demon Empress looked down and said indifferently, "If you want to reach the pinnacle, you have to make a life raft. That's what it means." The beautiful lady in white widened her eyes in shock. "But, this is the Sky Demon Mystic Canon. The Sky Demon Mystic Canon is in the Heaven Imperial Court, and only our family can cultivate it. If Zi Xueqing is really like this, then how did she know?" The Demon Empress pondered. "I find it strange too. However, Zi Xueqing is different from us. We are at the last step before we can make this life raft. And we have to go through endless dangers. But she is in the middle of it. She hasn't even reached it, and she has already started." The Demon Empress turned to look at her younger sister and said, "Meng Meng, if you are fine, you are very close to Zi Xueqing. Now that she has just gone through the process of destroying demons and becoming humans, She is in a weak state. Why don't you protect her for a while? How about it? The beautiful lady in white nodded and said, all right. The two sisters smiled knowingly. Mother, why don't I go and protect Miss Z? Following the voice, a young man in white suddenly appeared behind her. He was handsome and dashing, like a tree in the wind. You go. No way. The demon empress frowned. Although Zi Sheqing is not doing it entirely for men, she must have such a reason. If you go, you will definitely cause disgust. Instead, things will become irreparable. The young man's eyes flashed. He smiled and said, if I make her your daughter-in-law, wouldn't everything be more convenient? The demon empress said angrily, nonsense. You pestered her for so long 70,000 years ago. She didn't have a man then and didn't accept you. Now that her heart belongs to someone else, do you think you will succeed? The young man said dejectedly, but it's always good to try. The demon empress said angrily, how many times have you tried? You don't even know how to fight back after being hit by a woman. How can I have a son like you? Being hit by a beauty is a form of enjoyment. The young man explained weakly. One last try. The demon empress turned her head and ignored him. Meng Meng, I'll leave this matter to you. The young man turned his head and pleaded, Aunt, please put in a few good words for me. I'll go over when I'm free. The beautiful woman in white smiled bitterly. 3 days. In that mysterious cave. The brothers had been in seclusion for so long that even Mo Tianji couldn't count the number of days. It had to be said that such days were boring and unbearable. Everyone was a hot-blooded young man. At first, it was fine. But now, as they saw the huge dragon formed by the vital energy of heaven and earth slowly shrinking and gradually disappearing, their hearts started to become restless. On this day, something finally happened. Of course, they had to practice martial arts. But when they were free, there was nothing they didn't talk about. The story of the cold-faced Jiyu Duxing and Jiyu Miaoling's romance had been repeated 7 times under the pressure of his brothers. Ji Mo's romance had been repeated dozens of times. Especially regarding Huyen Abua's abuse of Ji Mo. Everyone never got tired of hearing about it. As for Ao Xieyun and Xiedan Qiong, everyone even talked about how they started to climb trees and dig out bird nests when they were young. Everything after that. Towards the end, the topic gradually became heavier and heavier. They talked about the dispute between the clans. The brothers turned against each other. Everyone sighed in unison. Only Ji Mo was very happy. He said, "What's the big deal? Isn't it just a fight? I don't feel any pressure at all." When this sentence came out, everyone despised him at the same time. Ji Mo and Ji Zhu also fought for the position of the clan head. But these two lazy bums fought because they didn't want to be the clan head. They didn't fight for power or profit. These two brothers were both lazybones, compared to the other clans. It was like heaven and earth. Jiyu Duxing felt slightly worse. But now, he also truly felt the benefits of killing the two brothers of the Jiyu clan. His heart wasn't so conflicted anymore. Ao Xieyun even competed with his cousins. Most of them were killed by these brothers. Some were even executed by his father. Luo Ku Di and Luo Ku Di didn't develop to that stage at all. Xiedan Qiong was chosen from a young age. No one competed with him. Instead, he was the most relaxed. This was the one who suffered the most. It was Mo Tianji. Mo Tianji used to fight to the death with Mo Tianyun for a very long time. The space here was sealed, far away from the bustling world of mortals. Mo Tianji's mind also gradually became calm and quiet. He thought about the things in his life. He thought about everything that made him sad and happy. He thought about how Mo Tianyun took care of him when he was young. When he was at a disadvantage, the young Mo Tianyun would always stand up for him. Who dares to bully my second brother? At that time, he was so safe. So much dependence. But, since when did these two brothers become so irreconcilable? Although in the end, Mo Tianyun was proven to be a bastard and not of the direct bloodline, but Mo Tianji thought about it. The one he missed was still that big brother of his. He was dead after all. He died in the fight with him. He used to be very happy. He used to be very relaxed because of his death. But now, the past kept coming back. Why was the melancholy in his heart unable to be erased? If he didn't change back then, he wouldn't fight with him at all. But why did he change? The smarter a person was, the easier it was for him to go down a dead end. Mo Tianji's controlling the world required him to have a heart of ice and snow. The most taboo was to have a chaotic heart. Once his heart was chaotic, he couldn't control it. On this day, when the brothers were practicing, they suddenly heard a scream. "Big brother, why did you become like this?" Everyone was shocked awake. They saw Mo Tianji spit out a mouthful of blood. Then, he spat out more blood and collapsed. The brothers turned pale with fright. Now, everyone had surpassed the saint level. The huge solid energy of heaven and earth had been absorbed by everyone. At such a critical juncture, at such a high level of cultivation, Mo Tianji actually went crazy. This was really something that no one expected. Jiyu Duxing was the first to react. In a flash, he appeared behind Mo Tianji's body. Using his hand to press against Mo Tianji's back, he continuously channeled his energy into Mo Tianji's body. However, he felt that the meridians in Mo Tianji's body were in a mess. Jiyu Duxing actually couldn't contain his energy. "Come over." Jiyu Duxing shouted. Jimo, Luoku Di and Xiedan Qiong immediately came over to help. The divine dragon energy in his body is in a mess. In just a moment, sweat had already appeared on Jiyu Duxing's face. This situation is really bad. When he first went into seclusion, Mo Tianji had already warned Jiyu Duxing. With so many young and strong guys in seclusion here, there would definitely be problems after a long time. So the two of them had prepared for this possibility for a long time and discussed many countermeasures. Chapter 12:18. The power of the divine dragon is in disorder. I need the blood of the divine dragon. Ao Xieyun gritted his teeth and said, "Duxing, it's useless to inject vital energy like this. Let go, let me do it." Everyone hurriedly let go. Ao Xieyun had the bloodline of the true dragon in him. He was indeed the only one who could treat the disorder of the divine dragon. Blood gushed out of Mo Tianji's mouth. Deep in his lifeless eyes, however, a trace of relief flashed past. Ao Xieyun channeled his power and gathered the bloodline of the true dragon in his body. Then, he went to Mo Tianji's side. With a swoosh, he cut a deep wound on his wrist. Warm blood gushed out and entered Mo Tianji's mouth. Jiyu Duxing injected vital energy into him from behind, guiding the bloodline of the divine dragon to flow through Mo Tianji's body and smoothing out the chaotic aura. After a long while, the blood stopped flowing out of his wrist. Ao Xieyun frowned and cut the wound again. This time, the cut was even deeper. The large amount of blood loss caused his face to gradually turn pale. But on the contrary, Mo Tianji's face gradually regained color. Seeing that it was still not enough, Ao Xieyun stretched out his left hand again. Feeling waves of dizziness in his head, he said calmly, "Duxing, if I faint later, continue to bleed until Tianji wakes up." Jiyu Duxing was shocked. "You will die if you do that." Ao Xieyun frowned and said unhappily, "Why are you talking so much nonsense? If I don't do this, what's the difference between Tianji's death and my own death? Will I still be able to raise my head in this life?" Jiyu Duxing took a deep breath. At this moment, Mo Tianji moaned weakly and opened his eyes. A bitter smile appeared on his lips. "Okay. I've embarrassed myself." The brothers cheered thunderously. Ao Xieyun was relieved at once. With a thud, he fell down and fainted. Jimo and Luoku Di hurriedly stepped forward and bandaged his wounds. Mo Tianji's body was extremely weak. He managed to say a few words to stop Ao Xieyun before he fainted again. Jiyu Duxing and Xie Danqiong hurried forward. They laid his body flat and took care of him carefully. No one knew the joy and guilt in Mo Tianji's heart at the last moment. Indeed, I've been a villain for nothing. Although inner demons were powerful, to Mo Tianji, even if he was injured, it shouldn't have been so serious. This time, it was qi deviation. After Mo Tianji lost control of his inner demons, He automatically added fuel to the fire and pushed himself to the brink of death. It was Ao Xieyun. Mo Tianji was very reassured about these brothers. Jimo, Jiyu Duxing, Luo Kudi and Mo Tianji had followed Chu Yang for a long time. So, they knew each other very well. There were no secrets between them. Therefore, Mo Tianji didn't suspect them. As for Xiedan Qiong looked handsome and confident on the surface. However, his way of thinking was somewhat conservative. During this period of time, Xiedan Qiong could even be said as a person in some aspects. It was a little naive. A true sexual lover. Therefore, Mo Tianji was not worried. The only one who was a little uncertain was Ao Xieyun. Before this, Ao Xieyun was known as the #1 person of the younger generation. His intelligence and scheming were not far off from his own. Now, in this group, Ao Xieyun's position was at the back because of the time he had joined. Would he feel uncomfortable? Would he be unconvinced? Would he, now? Everyone had finished absorbing the energy of heaven and earth and was preparing to leave this place. Perhaps, after they left, they would have to face the great battle of the upper three heavens. How could it be ordinary? If Ao Xieyun, Mo Tianji had always been cautious. In fact, he had reached the point of being cautious when making plans. He deeply understood the importance of unity and purity in a group. He definitely wouldn't be at ease to bring such a group into the upper three heavens and hand it over to Chu Yang. Therefore, today's cultivation had gone awry. On one hand, it was indeed the inner demons that had invaded. There was no doubt about this. However, on the other hand, this was also a genuine test. To test whether Ao Xieyun could disregard his own life for his brothers. This test would determine all of Mo Tianji's future plans. Now, although it was proven that Mo Tianji was indeed a little narrow-minded, Mo Tianji didn't regret it. On the contrary, he was very happy. However, he felt a little guilty towards Ao Xieyun. However, we will all be brothers in the future. No one knows. I'll find a chance to tell him or not. I'll keep it in my heart. Mo Tianji thought of this and fainted happily. Now, he was completely at ease with these few brothers. It had to be said that Mo Tianji's cautiousness had sometimes reached an unbearable level. During this period of time, this schemer couldn't go out and display his skills. Therefore, he began to think about the matters between his brothers. Chu Yang was the most at ease, absolutely reliable. Moreover, he was his future brother-in-law. Jiyu Duxing was the most hardcore. He was the most at ease brother. No matter what happened, as long as he was there, he could be at ease. Dong Wushong was absolutely reliable. He was like an iron bastion, giving people an incomparably safe feeling. If Jiyu Duxing and Dong Wushong were two peerless warriors, then Jimo and Luo Kudi were lucky generals. They didn't have to worry about anything. Benefits would fall from the sky and fall on their heads. Jimo was indifferent and lazy. Yes, this was a bit of an overestimation of him. In fact, he was just a lazy pig. However, he was loyal and righteous. There was absolutely nothing to doubt about him. Luo Kudi's personality was comical, but he was a sexual lover. Xiedan Qiong was steady and generous. Although his looks were average, he was a typical upright gentleman. Rui Biu Tong was unrestrained by the customs of the world. However, overall, he was exceptionally reliable. Ao Xieyun was also at ease now. How could Mo Tianji not be happy? If it were Chu Yang, he probably wouldn't be able to use Mo Tianji's methods in his lifetime. This was also the biggest difference between Chu Yang and Mo Tianji. Mo Tianji always kept himself in the safest environment at all times. Chu Yang, on the other hand, had to roam the world and fight. Danger lurked everywhere. This crisis was resolved 3 days later. When Ao Xieyun was still a little weak, Mo Tianji had already completely recovered. At this moment, the heaven-earth yuan qi that was the size of a small mountain was completely absorbed by the brothers. It was time to come out of seclusion. On this day, the mountain residents suddenly surged. A dragon's roar that seemed to come from the depths of the soul suddenly rang out, "We're going out." Mo Tianji and Jiu Duxing stood side by side. Looking at a bright spot in front of the sealed space, they murmured. All the brothers became excited at the same time. The bright spot grew bigger and bigger, slowly turning into a straight passage leading upwards. Let's go. Chu Yang ran all the way without looking back. He was afraid that once he turned back, he wouldn't be able to leave. When he entered the passage for 3 days, Chu Yang finally turned back. Clouds and mist filled the air. Looking back, there were no iron clouds, only dust and mist. Chu Yang left behind a concern and a heart. He seemed to be dreaming. Until he was running through the passage. He also felt like he was in a dream. So, I have a woman and a child here. I have a concern. He really didn't know what his heart was feeling. Now, Chu Yang began to consider if he returned to the Chu clan. If he saw Mo Qingwu, how would he feel? Chu Yang sighed and stopped himself from thinking about this matter. Then, he increased his speed. 3 days. In a purple bamboo forest. Chu Yang suddenly popped his head out. Then, he jumped out with a whoosh. The passage beneath him disappeared instantly. Chu Yang took a step out. Only then did he realize that this purple bamboo forest was actually not the passage he went down. Moreover, this purple bamboo forest was actually the purple bamboo forest where he met Mo Qingwu in his previous life. Isn't this deliberately making me feel bad? Although Chu Yang cursed in his heart, he had to admit that it still evoked the softness in the depths of his heart. He lingered in the purple bamboo forest for an entire morning before he finally left. Shouts came from afar. A group of black-clothed men were fighting with many yellow-clothed men. Chu Yang quickly rushed over. He didn't expect it at all. The first familiar person he saw in 3 days was actually him. He saw a man in green standing on top of a big tree, moving up and down with the branches. His body was also moving up and down. His hands were behind his back, looking at the battlefield. The expression on his face was actually extremely relaxed. The moment Chu Yang rushed out, the man in green's gaze also turned towards him. Then, both of them smiled at the same time. Duke Yu. Brother Yu. Chu Yang directly flashed across 5,000 feet and came in front of Duke Yu. It's been a long time. It's really been a long time. Duke Yu shook his head and chuckled. Why did you suddenly appear? It's a long story. Chu Yang smiled bitterly and looked at the battlefield. What's going on? A small force that doesn't know its place actually wanted to be rude to Lu. They were originally taught a lesson by Lu's bodyguards, but they actually kept pestering. Duke Yu said casually, I've been thinking about something after a long period of silence. I'm here to sharpen my blade and slaughter all these blind things. Brother Yu. I beg you, spare us. On the battlefield, a person screamed, his face full of tears. Are you going to destroy the entire Pang family of mountain vase just because of a spoiled brat's misdeeds? Duke Yu ignored him and smiled at Chu Yang. Look, they came to beg for mercy. The Pang clan of Mountain Pot. Chu Yang's heart shook. This clan was the one that besieged Mo Qingwu and caused her to die. Back then, it was precisely because a playboy in the clan took liberties with Mo Qingwu and was beaten up by her, forming a grudge. The previous generation of this clan was destroyed by Chu Yang because of Mo Qingwu. Now, there was no one to take liberties with Mo Qingwu, but this guy actually took liberties with Jun Lulu. This really made Chu Yang speechless. It seemed that he still had to die how he was supposed to die. I always feel that you guys are a little too lenient on your enemies, Duke Yu said in a good mood. If someone offends me, I will definitely kill his whole clan, and I will announce it to the world. This can save a lot of trouble. Killing people can also make me happy. That makes sense. Chu Yang nodded. If the big clans of the upper 3 heavens offend you, then it will be really troublesome. They can kill until your hands go soft. Get lost. Duke Yu shouted angrily. Chapter 12:19. Chu Yang laughed heartily. What he said just now had obviously hit this guy's sore spot. No wonder you're so fearless. TSK TSK TSK. Duke Yu looked at Chu Yang from the corner of his eyes. So you're already a saint. TSK, not bad, little one. You've improved so quickly. Of course. Chu Yang puffed out his chest proudly. Torturing you now is just like playing a game. Dukyu laughed. Later, let's have a spar. I'm afraid that I won't be able to explain to Jun Lulu if I beat you to death. Chu Yang was very humble. It's okay. I'll just take it as learning from you. Dukyu winked. Chu Yang looked up suspiciously. He was a little puzzled. This guy looked like a second stage saint, and he wanted to spar with him? Was he really looking for a beating? Recalling how he was humiliated by Dukyu back then, Minister Chu's pride and anger surged. Okay. When you're done, I'll spar with you. Chu Yang gritted his teeth and said. As he spoke, those people from the Pang clan of Mountain Vase had already turned into corpses. The leader of the black-clothed men came back to hand in the order. You guys go back first. I have something to discuss with this boss. Dukyu waved his hand. The black-clothed men answered respectfully. They couldn't help but look up secretly. There weren't many people in these 3 days that Dukyu called this boss. What they saw was a handsome young man in black. At this moment, this young man was nodding and smiling. The young man's carefree attitude and Dukyu's carefree attitude were like two brothers. They were both outstanding and different from the rest. Dukyu said, let's go, let's find a place to have a good fight. It's been a long time since I met an opponent above the saint level. I'm really itching for a fight. With a swoosh, the two disappeared at the same time. Only the black-clothed men who had just finished their work were left with their mouths wide open. Their eyes almost popped out. What? Was this young man, who was as handsome as jade and even very quiet and thin, actually a saint-level expert? Black 3, did I hear wrongly? Saint level? One of the black-clothed men turned to look at his companion in a daze. Yes, I think I heard wrongly too. Black 3 said. Dukyu's words can be wrong. Another man said. God. Saint level, in the distance. Mountain range. A single ray of cold light pierces 10,000 fathoms. What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? Chu Yang displayed his sword moves in a spirited manner, attacking Dukyu from all directions. Dukyu retreated. Ha. Minister Chu was in high spirits. Brother Yu, I was afraid of hurting you. So, I didn't dare to use my full strength. Dukyu smiled faintly, then go ahead and attack with all your might. It's a good opportunity for me to test my bottom line. Good. Chu Yang shouted, and increased his strength by a bit. Dukyu was still swaying as he tried to resist, just a little more. Chu Yang suddenly felt that something was wrong. Fuck, did I get cheated again? Now, he had already reached the 3rd grade of Sword Saint. This kind of power was enough to kill a 5th grade martial saint. In the beginning, Dukyu was on the verge of collapsing. Why was he still in such a precarious situation? This fellow could not have improved so quickly, right? Chu Yang let out a long howl, and his long sword rolled out. He used the last 4 moves of the Calamity Sword technique at full force, using the power of soft water. The power of the raging waves, the power of the gigantic waves, they attacked with everything they had. Dukyu let out a long laugh. Watch me. Suddenly, he opened his hands, and with a swoosh. On the ground in front of him, at a speed visible to the naked eye, a swooshing sound was heard. In an instant, it formed a patch of green, enveloping the entire battlefield. Dukyu chuckled and raised his hands. Take this. All the green vines wrapped around Chu Yang as if they had a life of their own. Chu Yang was shocked. He never dreamed that there would be such a strange martial art. With a few swooshing sounds, the Calamity Sword cut off all the vines, and they fell to the ground. But then, he realized that he was already in a green ocean. And Dukyu's figure. He actually didn't know where he had gone. Only this green ocean that was constantly growing was attacking him furiously. Moreover, the new vines that were growing out were actually full of sharp thorns, and they attacked him like poisonous snakes. After cutting off the vines that fell to the ground, they actually took root again. The more he cut off, the more vines there were. Chu Yang was very surprised. As he slashed with his sword, he said angrily, "What kind of martial art is this?" A green vine in front of him shook, and suddenly turned into the appearance of Duke Yu. He rushed up silently, and his palms were powerful. Bang, 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 Chu Yang was furious. Watch me cut them all. Dig them out by the roots. This move was indeed effective. The vines that were dug out by the roots had obviously lost their vitality, and they fell to the ground softly. But doing this would cause too much damage to the plane. With a long roar, Duke Yu's thin figure rose up. He shouted, Chu Yang, take this move of mine. 10,000 rivers and mountains, I'm the king of the 8 barren land. With a long roar, Duke Yu's figure spun rapidly in midair, and turned into a green shadow. Then, it turned into a green cloud, and fell down crazily. Tens of thousands of palm forces and tens of thousands of streams of energy attacked Chu Yang from all directions at this moment. These streams of energy were all different. Some were slanted, some were straight, some were curved, and some were spiraling. All kinds of strange attacks were coming. Fuck. Chu Yang cursed, you're serious. 20 moves of the Calamity Sword were unleashed crazily. With a series of bangs, Chu Yang rolled out like a rubber ball. Duke Yu's figure retreated slowly. Minister Chu came to a stop, and discovered that he couldn't see anything. It turned out that at this moment, he was completely wrapped in layers of plundering vines. From the outside, it looked like a gigantic green ball. Do you admit defeat? Duke Yu's voice sounded. I admit defeat. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Chu Yang admitted defeat quickly. This was the first time in his life that he had seen such a strange fighting method. Could it be the secret technique of the elves? With a swoosh, the vines disappeared. Duke Yu stood in front of him with his hands behind his back, and smiled slightly. You bastard, you tricked me? Chu Yang said angrily. Where did this come from? Duke Yu shook his head. You said that you wanted to beat me up to vent your anger. Chu Yang sighed. You've completely absorbed the inheritance of the elves? Duke Yu nodded. Yes, I've completely awakened the elves' secret technique, bloodline, and divine soul. I've also eaten the heart of earth that had been passed down by my ancestors for hundreds of thousands of years. Of course, my strength has improved by leaps and bounds. He blinked his eyes. If I were to reveal it, I'm afraid that I would be beaten to death by the big clans, or be captured and interrogated about the secret technique. Of course, I don't dare to. But now that the Tribulation Sword Master has obtained the 4th fragment of the Tribulation Sword, of course I have to quickly recover my strength. I see. Chu Yang gritted his teeth. He said hatefully, you tricked me. Duke Yu laughed, and then sighed. It's a pity that the spring of life of the elves has long disappeared. If there was still the spring of life, my strength would be able to improve greatly, and reach the level of 3rd or 7th grade supreme martial artist. But now, I'm only at the peak of 3rd grade supreme martial artist. Spring of life. Chu Yang's heart moved. But even if you've recovered the elves' inheritance, you can't improve so quickly, right? Chu Yang asked doubtfully. I received the essence of heaven and earth, and was only born after tens of thousands of years. Does this period of time not count? Duke Yu rolled his eyes. Monster! Chu Yang exclaimed. How has it been during this period of time? The two found a forest. Chu Yang chopped down 3 adjacent trees with one palm. Sitting on a wooden stump, Duke Yu's eyebrows twitched. It's all right, bamboo has been in seclusion. Duke Yu shook his head and smiled bitterly. Our Lu and I wanted to ask her to be our witness, but she didn't appear. You're married? Chu Yang was really surprised. No wonder you're different from before when I see you this time. Before Duke Yu recovered his elven bloodline, he was a little unhappy. He was still a little unhappy. Why did he think things through after recovering? Duke Yu revealed a gentle smile on his face. Since you disappeared at the Lake of Despair, where have you been? Duke Yu asked. To the upper 3 heavens. Chu Yang laughed. What about you? It's just as I expected. Duke Yu smiled lightly. I went to the far north wastelands to recover and improve, and then I didn't go anywhere else, and focused on accompanying a Lu. Haha, I didn't expect brother Duke Yu to be such a romantic. Chu Yang joked. Haha, you think too highly of me. Duke Yu laughed, and said somewhat emotionally, You don't understand matters of the heart. I don't understand. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. My heart is about to be tangled to death by my own feelings. Someone actually said that I don't understand feelings. The two chatted for a while, and Chu Yang was about to leave. When are you going to the upper three heavens? Duke Yu asked before leaving. The day when the heavenly passage opens is the day when we kill our way up to the upper three heavens, Chu Yang said lightly. At that time, you can do whatever you want in the upper three heavens. Duke Yu's eyes lit up, and he stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at the clouds in the sky, and after a long time, he said, "All right." The two waved goodbye. Before leaving, Chu Yang gave Duke Yu 2 water bottles, and specially said, "You can only look at them after I leave. And you have to drink them immediately." "But I can't move when I haven't gone far." Duke Yu looked at him disdainfully. He was disdainful, and agreed with a smile. This little guy is obviously angry that I tricked him just now, and now he wants to pretend to be mysterious and get back at me. Seeing that Chu Yang's figure had already disappeared into the distance, Duke Yu smiled. His long sleeves rolled up, and like flowing clouds, he rolled up the 2 water bottles, and snorted. Then, he twisted open the lid of one of them. Just as he twisted open the lid, his nose twitched. What a fragrant wine. He raised his head, and gulped it down. It's too little, only 2 or 3 mouthfuls. This guy is too stingy, and is deliberately coveting me. Just as he was thinking about whether he should chase after Chu Yang and ask for some good wine, a hot steam suddenly came out of his dantian, and a powerful force rushed out, and integrated into his meridians. The cultivation in his whole body rolled like a raging wave, and couldn't be stopped. Chapter 1220. This is actually spiritual wine. Duke Yu was shocked. He hurriedly channeled his energy to guide this sudden strong cultivation into his meridians. After a while, Duke Yu stood up. Looking at the dirt all over his body, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was indeed good stuff. The 3 mouthfuls had increased his cultivation by 300 years. In just an instant, his cultivation had reached the critical point of breaking through to 4th grade supreme martial artist. This was simply unthinkable. Since the wine in this kettle was so amazing, then what was in the other kettle? Duke Yu suddenly became extremely curious. He tried to pick it up, open the lid and smell it. Duke Yu sat down on the ground. Suddenly, his eyes widened to the maximum. His hands tightly hugged the purple crystal kettle as he groaned, "Spring of life. No. It's the spiritual spring of life that's close to evolving to the later stage of the spring of life. Oh my God." He sat there in a daze, but his eyes were filled with unbelievably ecstasy. After a long time, he finally regained his senses. Then, he hurriedly covered it up. He couldn't care less about the stench on his body and chased after Chu Yang. "Chu Yang, stop right there. You. Damn you. Where did you find it from?" Duke Yu's shouts echoed throughout the 3 heavens. Crazy, Chu Yang ran like a gust of wind. He changed his direction and went to the Ao clan. Duke Yu shouted all the way, but he ran in the opposite direction. The distance between the 2 parties was getting further and further. This was Chu Yang's intention. "I'm in a hurry to reunite with my brothers. Don't make trouble. Otherwise, I'd rather stay and see your shocked expression. It'll definitely be fun, but now, no matter how anxious you are, you're not as anxious as I am. I really don't have much time left. As for why I let Duke Yu see the spiritual spring, that's because, hey, this guy's cultivation has increased so much. It's really a pity that he's not a top fighter." When Chu Yang arrived, he saw that the Ao clan was very lively. Everyone was in a hurry. There seemed to be many guests in the Ao clan. Chu Yang grabbed one of them and asked, "What's wrong? Why is it so lively?" This guy was very impatient. "Are you from the 3 heavens? You don't even know about such a big thing. Such a big matter." Chu Yang was delighted. Could it be that Ao Xieyun and the others have come out of their seclusion? No. The warrior of the Ao clan was very dissatisfied. "Don't you know that the Ao clan master is celebrating his birthday? All the great clans have come to celebrate." "I see." The The corners of Chu Yang's mouth twitched. He thought to himself, it seems that I've arrived at the right time. It looks like I'm going to get ripped off. At this moment, in the distance, a procession of carriages and horses was approaching with great momentum. A large flag fluttered in the wind, Gu, the Gu family. Did you see that? The young mistress of the Gu clan has personally come. The Ao clan's warrior said proudly. Gu clan's young mistress and eldest miss. Chu Yang was shocked by this title. After a long time, he finally reacted. This is the legendary Gu Miaoling, Gu Duxing's lover. Chu Yang had heard of him for a long time. But this was his first time meeting him. So, he couldn't help but be curious. They saw that the gate of the Ao clan suddenly opened, and someone came out to greet them with quick steps. It was actually a few women, all of them graceful and elegant. The warrior was shocked. The clan master's wife has personally come out to greet them. This is really giving face. Chu Yang coughed. He understood. The Jiyu clan was a woman, but Ao Tianxing, the clan master, was a man. It wasn't appropriate to greet them. He brought out his wife. Sure enough, the curtains of the Jiyu clan's carriage were lifted, and a graceful figure appeared. From afar, she quickly stepped forward and bowed. Then, the group of women walked in happily and affectionately. Immediately, on the main road, another procession of carriages came. The Luo clan, Dong clan, Xie clan, Mo clan and Ji clan came one after another. The Xie clan came to recognize Xie Danqiong's wife and 4 concubines. The Luo clans was Luo Kawu. The Dong clans was Dong Wulei. The Ji clans was of course Ji Zhu. As for the Mo clan, the former clan master came with Mo Tianji's 2 concubines. Chu Yang immediately understood. These brothers were in seclusion here. How could those who had women at home not take care of them? Their loved ones had left and not returned. After not seeing each other for such a long time, who wouldn't miss them? And now, these clans were so close. The clan's experts were secretly protecting them. It was also a good thing to move around more. These women could wait until Ao Tianxing's birthday to discuss and come here. They were already restraining their longing. Chu Yang was a little emotional. Everyone shared the same thought, and their hearts shared the same logic. He was away all year round. Mo Qingwu, Tai Butian and the rest, weren't they more pitiful than them? At this moment, Chu Yang made a decision. If he was confident in the future, he would try his best to bring them along. If he wasn't, then he must not be away from home for too long. These brothers. Basically, those with women came. As for those without women. So, it could only be the men. Chu Yang looked at the warrior in front of him puzzledly. I'm not here to celebrate the birthday. I even grabbed you to ask you all this. Why are you so assured to tell me everything? That warrior looked at him disdainfully, his nose pointing up. Every year, there are many idiots like you. Besides, in the 3 heavens now, who dares to provoke the Ao clan? You want to make trouble? Chu Yang was speechless. At this moment, the Mo clan's team came. In front of the Ao clan's gate, Ao Tianxing was already waiting. Although Mo Xingchen had retired behind the scenes, he was still a figure of the same generation as himself. He had to give him face. After welcoming Mo Xingchen warmly, Ao Tianxing turned around and walked with Mo Xingchen arm in arm. The 2 old foxes didn't really deal with each other, but at this moment, they were friends who had been through life and death. They suddenly became intimate. The 2 walked a few steps. Suddenly, Ao Tianxing made a sound of surprise. He turned around and saw Chu Yang from afar. He couldn't help but be overjoyed. He walked over quickly. When that warrior saw the clan master striding over, he was so scared that his legs almost cramped. It's all your fault, all your fault. You pulled me to chat. Now, the clan master saw us. Looks like I can't avoid a beating. Chu Yang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Chu Yang, why are you here? Ao Tianxing was extremely surprised. His eyes opened wide. Since you came, why didn't you tell me in advance? I would have come out to welcome you personally. Chu Yang smiled and cupped his hands. I didn't know it was Uncle's birthday. I came presumptuously. It's awkward now. What's there to be awkward about? Ao Tianxing grabbed his arm and dragged him away. You came here and didn't even enter the house. You're treating me like an outsider. You're really pissing me off. I'm really pissed off. But his tone was so excited, happy, and intimate. The original warrior was dumbstruck as he watched Chu Yang being pulled away from his side by the clan lord. Chu Yang? Why does this name sound so familiar? Yes, isn't this the name of the Heavenly Armament Pavilion's boss? Could it be that the young man who chatted with him for half a day is the pavilion master of the Heavenly Armament Pavilion, which is second only to the dark bamboo in the upper three heavens? The common boss of his young master and the other young masters, Chu Yang? Thinking of this, his legs started to play the peeper. Oh my boss. You're such a big god, but you teased a small shrimp like me for half a day. Now I'm so scared that I'm about to pee in my pants. Ao Tianxing turned around and looked at him fiercely. You dog head. Brother Chu Yang came and you didn't even inform me. You left your important guest out like this. What punishment do you deserve? Go back and receive 800 beatings yourself. 800 beatings? The warrior's legs went soft and he knelt down. Those people in the clan's disciplinary hall could beat a martial king to death with just 8 beatings. 800 beatings. They could really beat him up. Forget it, he doesn't know either. It's all thanks to him for introducing me. Chu Yang smiled. This person has done a good deed. Good deed. Good. Ao Tianxing laughed. Get up. Brother Chu Yang said that you have done a good deed. Go to the accounts room and receive 800 taels of silver. It's your reward. The warrior was dizzy and confused for a moment. The 800 beatings were about to hit him a moment ago. The next moment, it became a reward of 800 taels of silver. This experience of going straight from hell to heaven made the warrior's mind unable to process for a long time. On the other side, Ao Tianxing had already pulled Chu Yang away affectionately. This was the first time Mo Xingchen saw Chu Yang. When Chu Yang arrived at the Mo clan, Mo Xingchen was extremely frustrated. He was in seclusion and didn't see anyone, leaving everything to Mo Tianji. Naturally, he didn't see him. Uncle Mo Chu Yang smiled affectionately and took the initiative to greet him. No matter what happened in the past, this guy was Mo Qingwu's biological father after all, his future father-in-law. At this moment, it was necessary to leave a good impression. As expected, Mo Xingchen was overwhelmed by this unexpected favor, and laughed out loud with a guilty conscience. You are Chu Yang? Ha ha ha. You are indeed a talent. You are indeed a young hero. You live up to your reputation. You live up to your reputation. Chu Yang smiled modestly. You flatter me. Mo Xingchen sized him up affectionately. Of course, he knew that Chu Yang was the person his daughter, Mo Qingwu, cared about. Thinking of the past, he was a little embarrassed and tried to find something to talk about. Brother Chu Yang, do you have a wife? Chu Yang was stunned. What do you mean by this? If you haven't found a wife, I still have a daughter, who hasn't married yet. Mo Xingchen laughed. When the time comes, you can interact more, haha. Ao Tianxing at the side twitched his mouth. This old guy. Wishful thinking. You don't know that the last time Chu Yang came. This old man mentioned this problem before, but I was mercilessly rejected. Now, I'll wait for you to be rejected. Chu Yang's eyes lit up. What is your daughter's name? Mo Xingchen laughed. You know my daughter too. Her name is Qingwu. If Brother Chu Yang is interested, my daughter is now 14 years old. She is beautiful and cute and is learning from her master. Recommend the new novel, The Unparalleled Tang Sect by the third young master of the Tang clan. Cough cough, I don't need to introduce who the author is, right? Naturally, I don't need to introduce either. This is a golden signboard. Everyone can read it without worry. Chapter 1221. When Mo Xingchen said this, he suddenly shut his mouth. The expression on his face was very interesting. Only then did he remember that his daughter's masters were Ning Tianya and Bu Liu Qing. Marriage, as her father, can I make the decision? Instantly, he felt awkward. However, Chu Yang said embarrassedly, cough cough. Yes, I still want to keep my chastity. I don't have any thoughts of family background. Since Uncle Mo has such good intentions, I have long had such intentions. I will agree. Mo Xing-chen choked. After a while, he started coughing violently. Ao Tian-xing also choked. He was stunned for a while before he started coughing violently. Brother Chu, you must be joking. The two clan heads laughed dryly and said at the same time, I'm not joking. Chu Yang said seriously. Mo Xing-chen was stunned. Fuck. Didn't I just slip up and say something wrong? Why did you insist? What a beast. My daughter is only 14 years old. You've been thinking about her since 4 or 5 years ago. Ao Tianxing was stunned. Fuck. No wonder you were indifferent when I introduced you to girls. So you like the 60s. Damn, you're a beast. The reception hall was already full of people. The two clan heads sent Chu Yang in and turned to leave. They even left in a sorry state. Chu Yang was a little surprised. This old man, is he playing with me? He said he would introduce his daughter to me. Why did he have such a reaction when I said I wanted her? This is simply me. Chu Yang. There was a surprised shout. Chu Yang looked up. He saw Ji Zhu standing up and waving at him. This shout of Chu Yang seemed to have a mysterious power. The noisy hall quietened down. Who in the three heavens didn't know Chu Yang? Chu Yang was a legend. When he was still in the three heavens, not many people knew about him. Only a few clans knew about him. However, after he disappeared, his fame suddenly skyrocketed. A few brothers used Chu Yang's name to bring glory to the Heavenly Armament Pavilion. Gradually, it became the second biggest power in the three heavens. Today, who didn't know that the mysterious leader of the Heavenly Armament Pavilion was called Chu Yang? When I was in Jianghu, I was a nobody. When I'm not in Jianghu, Jianghu is full of legends about me. This extremely pretentious phrase was perfectly interpreted by Chu Yang with his own experience. Chu Yang rubbed his nose and walked in. This was great. She had truly become a heart. So many orioles and swallows, so many pairs of beautiful eyes were all focused on his face. Even Minister Chu, who was used to seeing great winds and waves, couldn't help but feel a little nervous at this moment. Hello, Big Brother Chu. A young girl stood before him. Zhang respectfully bowed to him. I am here on behalf of Duxing. Greetings to Big Brother. At the same time, I would like to thank Big Brother for your gift, allowing Miao Ling to avoid the suffering of the cold poison in Horned Dragon Cave. It was Jiyu Miao Ling. Although Jiyu Duxing wasn't around, she was still his wife. Although they had yet to get married, Jiyu Miao Ling felt that she should thank Chu Yang on behalf of her family when he appeared. Jiyu Duxing was actually older than Chu Yang. But when they became sworn brothers, Chu Yang was the big brother. Chu Yang smiled warmly. Sister-in-law, you don't have to be so polite. Du Xing and I have gone through life and death together. When have we ever made any distinctions between each other? No matter what I did, it's what I should do. As he said, he casually took out a piece of mysterious young jade and handed it over. This is the first time I see you, so I didn't prepare anything. Sister-in-law's body is cold, so I'll give you a piece of mysterious young jade to warm your body. Jiyu Miao Ling blushed. Thank you, Big Brother. She received it. It was warm to the touch and she immediately felt refreshed. She knew that it was a priceless treasure. She was even more grateful and surprised in her heart. This Big Brother's eyes are really sharp. He actually saw that the cold poison in my body hasn't been completely expelled at a glance. This piece of jade is really a gift. Big Brother Chu, you gave Miao Ling a piece of jade, but I don't know what you're giving me. A very heroic voice sounded from the side. Chu Yang looked back and saw that this person had a stocky build and was 8 feet tall. He stood like a lofty mountain and sat like the earth. He walked like a tiger, like a dragon roaring and a tiger roaring, like a magnificent army. It was truly a big and burly, female. It was Jimo's beloved, Huyen Aobua. Miss Huyen, whose name shook the three heavens. Even among Chu Yang and his brother, her name was like thunder. Cough cough. So it's you, sister-in-law. Chu Yang rubbed his nose. Since he was prepared to be taken advantage of, then he should be prepared to be taken advantage of. He hurriedly took out a piece of mysterious yin jade and handed it over. Cough cough. Sister-in-law, there's nothing wrong with your body. This piece of jade is for you to play with. The real use of this piece of jade was that its cold aura was stronger. If Huyen Aobo wore it all year round, it might be able to disperse some of the masculine aura in her body, but how could Chu Yang dare to say this sentence out loud? Huyen Aobo was overjoyed. She took it and put it in her arms. Her whole body immediately felt cool and comfortable. She beamed with delight and thanked him. She stretched out her hand and a dignified young woman was pulled out by him. Huyen Aobo said, "Big brother Chu, this is Xie Danqiong's wife. This little sister is shy. I've asked for a greeting gift on her behalf." Xie Danqiong's wife was obviously a well-bred young lady. She was really good-looking. She was so shy that she didn't know where to put her hands. "Hello, big brother." Her voice was not much louder than a mosquito. Cough cough. "Yes, yes, yes." Chu Yang hurriedly took out another piece of mysterious young jade. "You gave them warm ones. Why did you give me cold ones?" Huyen Aobo asked discontentedly. Cough cough. Their physiques are weak and they need warmth. But you, obviously don't need it. Chu Yang's forehead was sweating. Jimo's wife was really awesome. She was indeed not inferior to men. This sentence made Dongwu Lei, Luo Kuwu and the others laugh secretly. But they heard Huyen Aobo say casually, "It's just that I'm a little sturdier." Actually, they can do it too. They just need to eat more. Chu Yang's face twitched. Yes, you're right. Minister Chu's face didn't change when facing thousands of soldiers. King of Hell Chu's eyes didn't blink when he slaughtered thousands of people. But now, facing his brother's wife, he was really convinced. "You pass." Huyen Aobo laughed, "But Xie Danqiong's 4 wives are also here. Hey, you 4, quickly come up and greet your big brother." Chu Yang smiled bitterly. "This family. Fortunately, I have a lot of mysterious young jade. Otherwise, I would have gone bankrupt here." The jade given to Xie Danqiong's concubines naturally couldn't be the same size as the one given to his wife. So, Chu Yang was careful. The jade given to the 4 women were half the size. Sure enough, Xie Danqiong's wife's eyes revealed a very warm and satisfied look. Women getting along with women was a study. However, the relationship between a man and his brother's women was also a great learning. Fortunately, Minister Chu had done some research. Otherwise, it would have been difficult to pass this stage. And, these are Mo Tianji's 2 wives. Huyen Aobo was like a big shot in the management of affairs. Looking at her attitude today, if Chu Yang didn't beg for mercy, she would really be upset. But Minister Chu was rich now. He smiled and casually gave each of them a piece of mysterious young jade. His expression didn't change. But he didn't know that his heart was already boiling. This Mo Tianji is really not a good person. Look at his 2 concubines. Neither of them is more than 17 years old. They have actually been with him for so many years. What a beast. Chu Yang cursed angrily in his heart, but his face was amiable. This is Ao Xieyun's wife. This is their house. Huyen Aobo continued to introduce. Chu Yang made up his mind and gave a big gift, Ao Xieyun's wife and concubines. Mother, grandmother, each of them was given a piece of jade. Everyone was happy. Fortunately, the sword spirit was dormant now. If it was still awake and saw Chu Yang's prodigal behavior, it would definitely vomit blood on the spot. The group of women exchanged greetings and received greeting gifts. Then, they went back contentedly. Jiju, Luo Kuwu and Dongwu Lei came up with flattering smiles. "Ha ha ha. Brother Chu, we are old friends. This greeting gift, get lost." Before they finished speaking, Chu Yang had already roared. His long-suppressed anger finally found an outlet here. "It's fine if those younger than me come to find me. But all of you are older than me, and you actually want a greeting gift from me? Fuck. How can you be so shameless?" Everyone was stunned. They never thought that this guy would turn hostile. Chu Yang stretched out his hands and put them under the noses of the 3 people. 3 big brothers, your younger brothers and I have been through life and death together. It's my honor to meet you today. Come, come, come. Give me a greeting gift. The 3 of them were instantly stunned. You were so happy to give out greeting gifts, but when it was our turn, you were the one who stretched out your hands. Where do we have greeting gifts for you? The 3 young patriarchs rolled their eyes and sat back down resentfully. Chu Yang didn't give up and went forward to ask for greeting gifts. Suddenly, there was chaos in the hall. The women who received greeting gifts covered their mouths and laughed. Looking at this big brother Chu Yang who suddenly appeared, everyone felt that this sworn brother of their husbands was really a good person. If such an evaluation fell into the ears of Chu Yang's enemies, they would probably vomit blood on the spot. If the millions of souls in the battle that decided the outcome of the lower 3 heavens heard this, they would definitely crawl out of hell to settle the score with these few women. Good person? Have you seen a good person who could bury millions of soldiers in one battle? The atmosphere in the hall became lively. It had to be said that although the hall was lively, there were indeed more women. Chu Yang, Dong Wulei, and the others were tied up inside. Finally, under Ji Zhu's suggestion, the 4 of them found a small room and started gambling. After a long while, Minister Chu proudly walked out with a pile of clothes and threw them into the cesspool. Then, he chatted and laughed with Ao Tianxing as if nothing had happened. Ao Tianxing waited for a long time but didn't see the other 3 come out. He wanted to go in and take a look, but the 3 inside desperately blocked the door. It turned out that under Minister Chu's superb gambling skills, not only did these 3 young masters lose all their belongings, they also lost all their clothes in the end. After Chu Yang won, everyone thought that he was joking. They didn't expect this guy to be so ruthless as to throw their clothes into the cesspool. Outside was a group of women in the hall. At this moment, the 3 dukes even had the heart to die. At this moment, a loud explosion was suddenly heard from outside. All the buildings of the Ao clan started to shake. Ao Tianxing was shocked, but then he was delighted. He stood up abruptly. The sound came from the direction of their seclusion. Are they finally out? Chu Yang's eyes suddenly lit up. Chapter 12:22. Before Ao Tianxing's voice died away, Chu Yang was already gone. Ladies, stay here and don't move. I'll go take a look. The ladies wanted to rush out, but when they heard Chu Yang's words, they stopped in their tracks. No matter what, they had to give face to this boss. Chu Yang's voice came from outside the door. Men, come out. Super alert. With a shout, the men in the hall ran out like a swarm of bees. When they heard these 2 sentences, the 3 naked dukes wanted to chop Chu Yang into pieces on the spot. You don't have to be so mischievous, do you? Under such circumstances, you actually left all the ladies behind and took all the men away. You don't want us to live anymore. Ao Tianxing was excited and wanted to go out. But he heard someone screaming in the small room. Clan Master Ao. Uncle Ao Shijie. Help us. Ao Tianxing was already in a fervent mood. How could he care about them? What's more, when I wanted to go in, you blocked the door and begged me not to go in. Now you want me to help? Help my ass. No way. Clan Master Ao went out confidently. The 3 dukes wanted to cry but had no tears. Dong Wulei and Luo Kawu turned to look at Ji Zhu, as if they were about to spit fire. It's all this guy's fault. Just now, he was discussing with the 2 of us to cheat and get something good from Chu Yang. Now it's great. We didn't win anything good from Chu Yang, and we don't have anything good left. And, we don't even have clothes. It's all your fault. Your rotten idea. The 2 dukes shrank behind the table and blamed Ji Zhu angrily. Ji Zhu moved a chair to the door and sat cross-legged on the chair with his back against the door. His posture was bold and unrestrained. He spread his hands. How would I know this little gambling skill is so good? The 3 of us were defeated even when we worked together. Besides, I'm no exception. Didn't I get stripped naked too? Luo Kawu and Dong Wulei wanted to cry but had no tears. You were stripped naked too, but why are you so stinky? The smell of Ji Zhu's stinky feet became stronger and stronger in this small enclosed room. The two dukes covered their noses. They couldn't help it. There were women outside, and the window was closed by the three of them. Dong Wu Lei and Luo Ku Wu felt that they could die of shame. How many days have you not washed your feet or bathed? Dong Wu Lei angrily asked Ji Zhu. Ji Zhu scratched his head and thought for a moment. Just a few days ago. I washed it last month. Luo Ku Wu and Dong Wu Lei had a wonderful expression on their faces. Today was the 28th day of the month. You actually washed it last month. At this moment, the two dukes felt like they had nothing left to live for. There were only women outside. Moreover, they were all women whom he could not afford to offend. Yet, he was stripped naked and locked in a room. This was undoubtedly a very frightening thing. But what was even scarier was that there was a man in this room who hadn't bathed or washed his feet for at least 28 days. What do we do now? The Luo Ku Wu monkey was below the window. Only the upper part of its neck was above the window, greedily breathing in the air through the window. We can only wait. Dong Wu Lei did the same action as him, and said in a voice that was almost suffocating. Your butts are quite perky. Ji Zhu, who was at the door, shook his feet. The two retched and turned to look at Ji Zhu murderously. Just you wait. When this is over, if we don't kill you, you can count yourself lucky. I'm so scared. Ji Zhu's posture was bold as he crossed his legs, and he let out a strange cry. In front of the back mountain of the Ao clan, Chu Yang stood there quietly. The expression on his face was a little excited. In front of him was the huge passage that he had created with his fists. At this moment, in the belly of the mountain, loud rumbling noises were constantly coming out. One after another, clear dragon roars could be heard. Shaking the air, the whole sky was filled with the roars of dragons and tigers. The entire mountain was trembling. More and more people gathered here. Chu Yang stood upright, standing at the front. Brothers, you are finally coming out. Long time no see. The rumbling noises continued. Chu Yang had a warm smile on his face. But his eyes were filled with memories. He didn't know why, but at this moment, his heart. But what he thought of were some trivial matters. He still remembered that when Jiu Du Xing had provoked him, Jimo had said, let's compete. Who's afraid of who? The loser is the underling. At that moment, deep in Jimo's eyes, there was no competitiveness. There was only a warmth of acknowledgement. He still remembered that time when he had fought against the Golden Horse Riders department. Jimo had insisted on following him to watch the show. He didn't say that he was going to help him, but he insisted on watching the show. Because he knew that he was still weak at that time. When facing a strong enemy, it was hard to say whether he would live or die. He still remembered that time, in the land of heavy snow, when the brothers faced the fourth uncle who hadn't revealed his identity at that time, who was countless times stronger than them. They didn't retreat an inch. They didn't give an inch. He still remembered that time in Great Jiao. The brothers had laughed. Boss, it was easy. Easy. Behind this easy sentence, how many dangers were there that nearly cost their lives? He still remembered that Jiu Du Xing had said coldly, as long as you charge, I will go. He still remembered that time when he had blocked the saber for Dong Wushong. The moment Dong Wushong turned his head and saw him bleeding, he had a hysterical and violent look in his eyes. He still remembered that Mo Tianji had looked out of the window indifferently and had said indifferently, I am willing to accompany you in a bloody battle in this life. At that moment, Mo Tianji's eyes had been filled with fighting spirit. He still remembered that time in the battle in the far north wastelands. The brothers had all been injured. They had all huddled together, but each of them had fought for a place to cool off at the entrance of the cave. He still remembered that Rui Biu Tong had smiled mischievously, I am not afraid of death. I won't die. What are you worried about? Do I really not know that kind of despair and fear every time I die? He still remembered that Xiedan Qiong had looked at him warmly and grabbed his arm with one hand. Brother, I will accompany you in a bloody battle in Jianghu. He still remembered that Ao Xie Yun had said enviously, it is good to have such a brother. Then, he had joined without hesitation. He still remembered. Every time Tan Tan had seen him after a long separation, he would ask, Chu Yang, look, am I handsome? These bastards. These bastards. Chu Yang smiled faintly. At that time, the situation had changed. The Ao clan had internal strife. The brothers were in danger. In just a few days, all the brothers gathered together as fast as they could. Luo Kudi had been seriously injured and was on the verge of death. But at that time, he had rushed over in time with his scarred body. Even though he didn't even have the strength to raise his hand when he had rushed over, he had still rushed over in the face of life and death. If we had won, if we had survived, I would have been with my brothers. If we had lost, if we had died, I would have been with my brothers. It was that simple. When the brothers had gathered together, they had faced the powerful enemies of the three heavens with their chests held high. They had felt warmth and pride in their heart. Such brothers who had gone through life and death together. Who in the world had it? Me. Chu Yang believed that at that moment of life and death, everyone must have faced life and death with such pride in their heart. Because, in this world of indifferent friendship, filled with deceit and betrayal, even when most people doubted this kind of sincere friendship, we trusted each other so much. We trusted our backs to our brothers so confidently. We are so proud. When we are together, we can defy the heavens. Chu Yang's heart was rapidly replaying the time he had spent with his brothers at this moment. The rumbling sound was getting louder and louder. It was the sound of a dragon's roar. It was getting more and more shocking. Then, all the vibrations, all the sounds. Suddenly, they all disappeared at the same time. There was a faint sound coming from afar. Chu Yang smiled. An exaggerated voice said, "Awu tilde what the heck? Such a long passageway actually appeared here?" Another voice said calmly, "It's strange. I didn't discover it before." Another voice said thoughtfully, "What's strange about a passageway? But this passageway gives me the feeling that it was punched out by someone." Then, a voice suddenly shouted, "What the heck? Dog aren't. Just one punch. How thick is that punch?" An angry voice said coldly, "Shut up. Can't you be quieter? You need to be taught a lesson." A few voices hissed together, "Hey second brother Gu. You were already very annoying inside. Now that you're out, you're still so annoying." A cold voice said coldly, "Say that again." There was complete silence. After a long time, a flattering voice said, "Second brother. You're still so powerful." A few voices said together, "I really can't stand it. This little wolf is too disgusting. Every day, he flatters second brother Gu." That voice said sadly, "What can I do? If I don't flatter him, I'll get beaten up." A burst of laughter. A calm voice said, "Don't talk first. We're going out soon. We've been inside for a long time. It's better if it's night outside. But if it's daytime, we'll definitely encounter strong light. If we're not careful, our eyes will be ruined. So, from now on, close your eyes and feel the light." A voice said disapprovingly, "Never heard of it." A few voices roared together, "Just close your eyes when we tell you to. Do you believe that we'll beat you until you lose control of your bladder? Fuck, you only know how to threaten. Damn it, you're just saying it. Actually, I've already closed my eyes. Do you think I'm as stupid as you guys? Fut." It was clearly someone who was beaten up. Someone at the side commented, "I really admire this guy. If he doesn't get beaten up for a day, he'll be extremely depressed." Another voice concluded fiercely, "Despicable. This guy is despicable. Bastard. Who are you talking about? You bastard who doesn't know how to respect the elders. You. How are you old and virtuous? I haven't eaten for a long time. Don't make me vomit." Then, the two of them started to quarrel. The few of them continued to bicker as they walked out. Chu Yang smiled, turned around, and gestured for them to keep quiet. Everyone nodded in understanding. Just as the people inside said, if they suddenly came out and saw strong light, their eyes that had been in the dark for a long time would probably not be able to take it. At this moment, among the people waiting, if anyone made a sound and was heard, they would open their eyes in surprise and joy. The consequences would be unimaginable. It was just past noon. The light was still very strong. The dark and gloomy December had arrived. "We're here too." Chapter 12:23. I'm going to take a bath. Ao Xieyun was in his own house and was surrounded by familiar faces. He couldn't take it anymore. With a loud roar, he took the lead to cover his crotch and dashed away. Wait for me. The brothers hurriedly followed behind. Some covered their faces, some covered their buttocks. In the blink of an eye, they all disappeared without a trace, leaving only one sentence: "Boss, don't run. We'll come back to settle the score with you." Chu Yang touched his nose. There was a comfortable smile on his face, but he said angrily, "How impudent. As little brothers, you actually dare to settle the score with boss." A burst of laughter came from beside him. After a long time, in the hall, following a commotion, everyone looked over expectantly. A young man with wet hair and brand new clothes walked into the hall with his head held high. Instantly, there was a burst of screams and the hall became chaotic. The army of women moved out at the same time. Some cried, some screamed, some cried tears of joy, some cried silently, some looked at each other with infatuation. In an instant, Ao Xieyun, Xie Danqiong, Mo Tianji, Jiyu Duxing and Ji Mo were all in the arms of beauties. Chu Yang watched with a smile at the side. This was their time. They needed to vent their yearning for more than a year at this moment. Among the brothers, only Luo Kedi didn't have beauties. He walked to Chu Yang's side and couldn't help but twitch his mouth. Despicable. Truly despicable. Even heroes have a weakness for beauties. Look at these guys, cuddling with beauties, how despicable. Chu Yang snorted and was about to speak when he saw Luo Kedi suddenly burst into laughter. When Chu Yang saw this, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of tea. He saw Huyen Aobo striding over majestically and grabbing Ji Mo. She punched him and scolded, "Ji Mo, little thief. You really want to die." Bang! Another kick landed on Ji Mo's back, and he fell to the ground. Then, he was picked up again. His feet were off the ground and he was actually laughing. "Aobo, mother. I missed you so much." Huyen Aobo's eyes reddened and tears almost flowed out. She scolded, "I didn't miss you." But she still hugged Ji Mo in her arms. Ji Mo was in Huyen Aobo's arms like a little bird. Miss Huyen was obviously very happy, shouting, jumping and scolding. However, when she jumped, she took Ji Mo with her. This scene was like a mother with a large body bringing along her child who had yet to reach adulthood. Chu Yang was speechless. Luo Kedi laughed so hard that he staggered to the left and right. He held his stomach and cried out in pain. After venting their excitement, everyone began to whisper to each other in a group. Everyone tactfully retreated. And Jiyu Duxing and the others, under the guidance of the servants and maids, were also leading their loved ones into the small courtyards that had been prepared for them. At this moment, silence spoke louder than words. In the blink of an eye, there were only two people left in the bustling hall. Chu Yang, Luo Kedi. "Boss. If they're all gone, what are we going to do?" Luo Kedi was a little envious. "Sigh, if I had known earlier, I would have also found one. Back then, there were so many beautiful ladies chasing after me. I didn't even look at any of them." Chu Yang rolled his eyes. "You have a very important mission." Luo Kedi's eyes lit up. "What mission?" Chu Yang led him. They came to the door of a small room. First, they cocked their ears and listened. Then, they pointed to the door and said, "Little wolf, there's a gift that I've prepared for you for a long time inside. You just have to open the door and you'll get it. Take note, this is for you alone. Don't let anyone else see it. Otherwise, they'll say that I'm being unfair." Luo Kedi nodded repeatedly. He was so excited that his little face was red. "Don't worry, boss. I won't say it even if you beat me to death." Chu Yang nodded and whispered mysteriously, "Go and open the door. Brother, you'll get a surprise that you've never had in your life." Luo Kedi immediately became excited. His eyes shone like a wolf's. "Who's the boss?" "Yes. This is the Tribulation Sword Master. How can the gift that he wants to give me be weak?" Luo Kedi rubbed his hands and felt that his palms were a little hot. He smiled slyly and walked to the door sneakily. He even looked around carefully. "Yes, there's no one. It's time to receive the gift." Ha ha ha, he pushed the door open. "Yes?" The door didn't open. He pushed again, but it still didn't open. Luo Kedi scratched his head and pushed the door again. There was actually someone inside holding the door open. Luo Kedi was instantly enraged. What the fuck? This is a gift from the boss. Who beat me to it? Anger rose in his heart. Second Master Luo roared, "Motherfucker." He gave a flying kick. With a bang, the whole door was kicked into pieces. Luo Kedi stepped in and roared, "Who dares to touch my things?" Then, he suddenly became dumbfounded and stood there like a puppet. In front of him, his big brother Luo Kawu and Dong Wulei of the Dawn clan were looking at him as if they wanted to eat him alive. He looked down. What? These two bosses were actually completely naked. Luo Kedi was stunned. Then, his eyes widened. He turned around and saw that Chu Yang was no longer behind him. Luo Kedi was instantly in a tragic situation. His fingers trembled and his face turned green. "You! What are you doing?" He saw that the two of them were actually closing in on him with gritted teeth. Luo Kedi retreated continuously. He roared angrily, "Luo Kawu, aren't so many beautiful wives and concubines enough for you to play with? Why do you have to play with men? And with big brother Dong Wulei?" He hadn't finished speaking when the two opposite rushed over at the speed of the wind. The anger and astonishment on their faces turned into horror in an instant. She covered his mouth with her hand. "My dear master, your loud voice is really going to scare me to death. Woo, woo. Let go of me." Luo Kedi was terrified. I don't like this." Dong Wulei and Luo Kawu were speechless. A groan came from the ground. Luo Kedi looked down and saw a naked fat man. It was Jiju. Luo Kedi fainted. He shook his head and said dizzily, "The three of you? Play together?" He hadn't finished speaking when the three opposite rushed over like wolves and tigers. They pressed this abominable guy to the ground and beat him up. PFFF PFFF PFFF. After a long time, Luo Kedi's clothes were stripped off. Luo Kawu put on the clothes without hesitation and then sneaked out. After a while, he found a few sets of clothes and put them on. Then, he breathed a sigh of relief. "I want to go back and tell father." Luo Kedi shouted miserably. He wanted to cry but had no tears. "You actually like men, bastard. You're the one who likes men." He had just finished speaking. Another round of beating. After a long time, Luo Kedi, who had been separated for a long time, was beaten up until he looked like a pig head. You, Chu Yang. What kind of boss did you recognize?" Luo Kawu said with grief and indignation. His whole body trembled and his fingers trembled. Th. He didn't finish speaking in the end. The three archdukes left stealthily as if they were flying. Luo Kedi lay on the ground, confused. What is going on? After a long time, he reacted. Fuck. Luo Kawu. Big brother. You should also bring me some clothes. Boss. The surprise you gave me this time is really unbearable. When Luo Kedi wrapped himself in curtains and sneaked out, he bumped into a group of maids carrying dishes and cutlery. They were walking towards him in a single file. When they bumped into each other, Luo Kedi's face immediately turned pale. The maids exclaimed and the cutlery fell to the ground. The ladies widened their bright and beautiful eyes in disbelief, as if they had seen a ghost. Luo Kedi was in for a tragedy. Because a rumor immediately spread in the Ao clan. Do you know Luo Ergong who just came out of seclusion? Yes, why? You only know now. This second master Luo likes to run around naked. Who's Luo Ben? Ayaya. Streaking. It means running in public without any clothes. Ah, there's such a thing. Come. Let me tell you in detail. This matter happened in Thai. Okay. That night, the Ao clan held a grand banquet. They entertained the guests. The female guests weren't in the hall. There were other seats. But the male guests were also clearly separated. The dukes sat at their own table. Chu Yang and the other brothers sat at the same table. They didn't interact with each other at all. That night, they drank and ate to their heart's content. Only second Master Luo shocked the other brothers. What's going on? How did you get beaten up to this state when you just came out? Second Master Luo's heart was filled with bitterness. He was angry but didn't dare to speak. Under the threatening gazes of the three dukes beside him, he didn't dare to utter a single word. Haha. When we're full, let's have a bet with the three big brothers. Chu Yang laughed heartily. A little bet is good for the mood. Yes, my big brother likes this the most. Jimo fanned the flames. I bet that you definitely won't win. Mo Tianji added fuel to the fire. But when the three dukes heard the word bet, they shuddered at the same time. They pretended not to hear at all and turned their faces away. The corners of their mouths twitched. At this moment, the three dukes swore at the same time, even if they were beaten to death, they wouldn't bet. Bet with you? Not only do I have nothing better to do, I also have masochistic tendencies. Chu Yang's provocation came to nothing. This made the brothers who were very familiar with the three dukes extremely surprised. Only Chu Yang laughed so hard that he fell over. After the meal, the three dukes left as if they were fleeing for their lives. Only then did Chu Yang and the other brothers ask questions. Chu Yang glanced sideways and saw that there were still many people in the hall. On the surface, they looked serious, but all of them were listening attentively. Therefore, Chu Yang leisurely told him about the gambling match. He deliberately lowered his voice. At this volume, ordinary people definitely couldn't hear him, but who in this hall was an ordinary person? Instantly, everyone heard him. Instantly, the entire hall burst into laughter. Some people held their stomachs and squatted on the ground, crying out in pain. As for Jimo, Luo Kudi and the others, they even slapped the table and laughed. They were so happy that they wanted to worship their big brother's brilliance on the spot. He really helped his brothers vent their anger. Chapter 12:24. It was already late at night. In Chu Yang's room, the 7 brothers were all gathered together. After being apart for more than a year, this was the first time they were all alone together. They couldn't help but feel a little excited. All of them actually felt as if a lifetime had passed. Feeling this atmosphere, no one made a sound. All of them only felt waves of heat rolling in their hearts. Even Luo Kedi and Jimo, who were the most talkative, kept their mouths shut. Sometimes, they would squirm a little and then quickly shut it again. All of you have changed. Chu Yang looked at his brothers with some emotion. All of you have slimmed down a little. However, you look full of energy. You must have improved a lot during this seclusion, right? Mo Tianji smiled very reservedly. It's all right. At least, we didn't disappoint you. Even Mo Tianji, who had always been reserved and steady, said this. It was clear that they had indeed benefited a lot from this seclusion. Oh, tell me about it. Chu Yang asked with great interest. Everyone looked at Jiyu Duxing. No matter how one counted, it should start with Jiyu Duxing. Jiyu Duxing coughed and said, this seclusion was all thanks to Xie Yun's divine dragon treasure. There were unimaginable good things inside. That allowed us to improve so quickly. Yes, I am currently a sword supremacy, 1st grade. He raised his eyebrows. He couldn't help but feel proud. From sword sovereign to supreme martial artist in more than a year. Hihi, this was an unprecedented speed. Therefore, even with Jiyu Duxing's indifference, he couldn't help but feel like he was presenting a treasure. The first person to speak gave Chu Yang a fright. Sword supremacy, 1st grade. This kind of strength was also one of the top in the upper 3 heavens. It was enough to kill an ordinary 3rd grade supreme martial artist without too much damage to himself. How could there be such a huge improvement? It was only a little more than a year. Chu Yang suddenly thought of Duke Yu. Duke Yu had activated the elf bloodline. His cultivation improved by leaps and bounds all of a sudden to an astonishing level. Could it be that the divine dragon treasure opened by his brothers was actually similar to that of the elf race? If that was the case, then it was understandable. Supreme martial artist, 1st grade. Jimo was the second to speak. His face was full of pride and arrogance. He almost wanted someone to kick him. Supreme Martial Artist, first grade. Ao Xieyun nodded slowly. He was very graceful and elegant. Me too, Supreme Martial Artist. First rank. Luo Kedi touched the bruises on his face. His eyebrows were raised high. His eyebrows seemed to be dancing, looking very spirited. When Chu Yang saw Luo Kudi's eyebrows at this moment, he even had the misconception that he was looking at Tan Tan. Me too. Xie Danqiong smiled reservedly. Cough cough. Mo Tianji coughed a few times. I haven't arrived yet. I'm only at the peak of Saint level. After all, Mo Tianji wasn't the main fighting force. It was already very surprising that he was at the peak of the Saint level. Chu Yang let out a long sigh. That's great. Everyone was overjoyed. They finally got to see their boss's shocked expression. This feeling was simply too great. In an instant, the brothers all felt that this 1 year of darkness was really worth it. It was so worth it. To be able to see such an expression on Chu Yang's face, even if he had to add another year, he would gladly accept it. Mo Tianji said calmly, the biggest contributor to this upgrade is Ao Xieyun. Xieyun offered up the dragon race's treasures and shared them with his brothers. If it was just him alone, this energy would be enough for him to break through to 8th grade Supreme Martial Artist and above. Ao Xieyun hurriedly waved his hands. Tianji, what you said is really boring. I especially don't like to hear it. Chu Yang laughed. He understood what Mo Tianji meant. On the surface, it was just a polite greeting. In reality, it was just to point out Ao Xieyun's achievements so that Chu Yang, the boss, would know what to do. After all, when a big clan was established in the future, there would still be a ranking among the big clans. And this ranking would be based on which of the brothers contributed the most. It would be a ranking that everyone was sincerely convinced of. Mo Tianji had thought far ahead and had already planned that. Furthermore, from the tone of Ao Xieyun's words, Chu Yang knew. These brothers had already completely merged together. He couldn't help but feel very happy. The brothers all talked at once and recounted what had happened in the secret chamber. Chu Yang listened with great interest. Especially the few times Luo Kudi and Jimo fooled around, it made Chu Yang laugh heartily. Mo Tianji was also all smiles. He was in a particularly good mood. Seeing that Chu Yang had returned, Mo Tianji seemed to have put down a heavy burden. His whole body relaxed. He knew that if Chu Yang didn't come back, sooner or later, this group would disperse. And when it did, no matter what he had done, he would be the most unforgivable person. Because he had fabricated a lot of information. That was why it had been maintained until now. Now that Chu Yang had returned, whether Mo Tianji's information was fabricated or true, it was no longer important. What was important was that there was a core. When everyone finished talking, it was already midnight. Boss, what have you been doing all this time? Jimo moved forward. Don't just let us talk. You talk too. Chu Yang smiled warmly. There are indeed a few things that I want to tell everyone. Jiu Du Xing's eyes lit up. The brothers all became serious. That day, I was at the bottom of the lake of despair. Then, I went to the upper 3 heavens. After that, Chu Yang spoke slowly and methodically. As Chu Yang spoke, everyone's expressions also changed. Sometimes, they cheered loudly. Sometimes, they looked serious. Sometimes, they looked fascinated. They really didn't expect that their boss had experienced so many interesting things during this period of time. It was really a pity that they had missed out on all these things. When Chu Yang talked about Dong Wushong and Rui Biu Tong, everyone's emotions were obviously high. How is Wushong now? Jimo puffed out his chest. Can he beat me? Wushong. If I'm not wrong, he should have broken through to saber supremacy at this time. Chu Yang looked at Jimo meaningfully. You can spar with him. Everyone laughed. Jimo was only an ordinary first-grade supreme martial artist now. If he fought with a first-grade saber supremacy, how could it be called a spar? It would be pure torture. Jimo's face turned bitter. He said dejectedly, this bastard's progress is so fast. I'm really disappointed. Then now, is it really the sound of dragons and phoenixes? Mo Tianji said thoughtfully. That's right. Chu Yang said, Xie Yun is the successor of the dragon race and has the bloodline of the divine dragon. Bu Tong is the successor of the phoenix race and has the bloodline of the phoenix. Two truly amazing characters have appeared in our brother's home. Luo Ku Di snorted and said disdainfully, they're just a loach and a bird. Ao Xie Yun pounced over angrily and the two of them wrestled. After he finished talking about Chu Yang's experience in the upper three heavens, the brothers sat quietly and didn't move at all. Now, I want to tell you the second thing. Chu Yang took a deep breath and said, it's a big secret about me and us. Everyone was shocked and raised their heads at the same time. As if they had guessed what Chu Yang was going to say, everyone's eyes lit up. Maybe everyone is wondering why my strength can improve so fast. Why do I have so many miraculous medicines on me? Chu Yang took a deep breath and said in a low voice, brothers, I'm sorry for keeping it from you. I'm the current tribulation sword master. Everyone felt as if their heads had been blown off. Instantly, they felt a little dizzy. Although they had heard Mo Tianji's speculation, this was the first time Chu Yang publicly admitted his identity. How could guesses from others be compared to Chu Yang's own confirmation? Even Mo Tianji, although he had guessed it long ago, still felt that his brain was a little short of oxygen at this moment. His body swayed a little. Jiyu Duxing could be considered to be very calm, but he still let out a soft gar sound from his throat. As if he had suddenly bitten his tongue. Tribulation Sword Master. The ruler of the heavens. According to ancient legends, whoever had the tribulation sword would be the master of the heavens. The brothers were petrified at the same time. They all held their breaths and looked at Chu Yang. Under everyone's gaze, Chu Yang slowly stretched out his right hand. There was nothing in his palm. However, in the next moment, something that shocked everyone to the extreme happened. In Chu Yang's empty palm, a small sword, only the length of a little finger, suddenly appeared. It was sparkling and shiny. The sword tip, sword edge, sword blade, sword guard and sword tongue were on it. But there was no sword hilt, no sword tassel, no, it was just a half-finished sword. In the next moment, this half-finished sword made a sword sound. Although the sound was soft, it was extremely crisp. It was extremely mighty. Clang. The swords at the waists of Jiyu Duxing, Ao Xieyun, Jimo, and Luo Ku Di made a sword sound at the same time. The swords automatically popped out of the scabbard by half a foot, and a cold light flash. To the supreme king of the sword, to give the supreme salute. In the next moment, that small sword suddenly expanded and became the same size as a normal sword. Cold light and murderous intent filled the air. There seemed to be strange lights moving back and forth on the body of the sword, and it was breathtaking. Although it was only a half-finished sword, the aura it emitted at this moment was arrogant and insufferably arrogant. There was a sense of pride and arrogance, as if he was the only one in the world. Clang. Chu Yang placed the sword on the table in front of him. The sword vibrated twice, seemingly dissatisfied with Chu Yang's decision to let it go. But it eventually quieted down. Everyone's gaze was instantly focused on this sword. Jiyu Duxing's gaze was fervent and filled with the light of pilgrimage as he looked at this sword. Although the sword was not complete, it was universally acknowledged as the best sword in the world. The winds and clouds of the past 10,000 years were stirred up by this sword. How many lives were plunged into misery and suffering because of this sword? How many influential figures had perished because of this sword? How many legends arose because of this sword? How many sins were born because of this sword? In 10,000 years, at the very least, tens of billions of people died because of this sword. Tens of billions of lives forged the supreme reputation of the Calamity Sword. Tens of billions. What kind of concept was that? Chapter 1225. Calamity Sword. This was the peerless divine weapon that all swordsmen in the heavens dreamed of. It was the number one divine item. Jiyu Duxing's body trembled. His gaze was focused on the tip of the sword. It was as if he could see that the tip of the sword, which was as cool as water, emitted an aura that was as sharp as his. This aura made Gu Duxing tremble with excitement. Calamity Sword was also the #1 killing weapon. It was also the source of all disasters. But in the end, all disputes and disasters still had to be ended by this sword. Mo Tianji's gaze was bright as he looked at Calamity Sword. His expression was solemn. Mo Tianji rarely had such an expression. Usually, he was confident that he had the world in his hands. But today, his expression was incomparably solemn and respectful. Because Mo Tianji knew that once this sword appeared, his position would be fixed. From this moment onwards, there would be countless experts who would die under his schemes. But if he did not plan well, he and all his brothers would die without a burial ground. The master of Calamity Sword would turn the world upside down. When Calamity Sword appeared, wisdom would lead the way. This was the legend of Calamity Sword. When Calamity Sword truly appeared, it was also the moment when the master of Calamity Sword officially appeared. It also meant that the great cause of overturning the heavens had officially begun. They would officially start a war with the great clan that had ruled the upper 3 heavens for 10,000 years. From today onwards, there would be no retreat. There would only be 2 outcomes. The first outcome was that the master of Calamity Sword would lead his brothers to overturn the heavens. The second outcome was that they would die and their clans would be wiped out, beyond redemption. Mo Tianji looked at the sword. The Calamity Sword flashed coldly. It seemed to be blinking and looking at him. Mo Tianji looked at the empty sword hilt. He suddenly felt as if he was holding a sword. Not a sword, but he really wanted to fill it in. Suddenly, he felt a heavy sense of responsibility and mission. Is this my destiny? Ao Xieyun suddenly felt the blood in his body burning. He stared at Calamity Sword. His breathing was heavy. His gaze was fixed on his chest. Suddenly, a golden dragon scale slowly appeared. The dragon scale shone. Ao Xieyun trembled. I finally saw Calamity Sword. The sword that had ruled the heavens for 10,000 years. Xie Danqiong gasped for breath. His handsome face was flushed red. Jimo opened his mouth and muttered to himself. Only those who were very close to him could hear what he was saying. Dog aunt. Holy shit. Dog aunt. What the fuck? So fucking beautiful. Your grandmother. Luo Kedi gasped. His eyeballs almost fell to the ground as he stared at Calamity Sword. He kept repeating, so it's true. So it's true. So it's true. Chu Yang also looked at Calamity Sword. He took a deep breath and said, This is the Calamity Sword. He paused for a moment before continuing softly, as for us brothers, for a very long time in the future, we'll all be in the same boat. Fate and this sword. They're connected together. As soon as these words were spoken, the brothers' expressions changed. As if they had just woken up from a dream, they suddenly trembled. No one doubted that it wasn't the Calamity Sword. This sword appeared out of thin air. Then, under everyone's widened eyes, it grew from the size of a pinky to the size of a normal longsword. The size of a longsword could actually change. Not to mention seeing such a miraculous thing, the brothers had never even heard of such a thing. Such a miraculous sword. In the world, other than the Calamity Sword, what other sword could have such a miraculous effect? This is the Calamity Sword. Chu Yang's words had already drawn the attention of Gu Duxing and the others. They didn't notice Chu Yang's last sentence at all. Only Mo Tianji's eyes flashed and he revealed a contemplative look. For a very long time, fate and this sword will be connected together. This sentence was worthy of praise. Generally speaking, the fate of the Calamity Sword's owner and the Calamity Sword would be closely related to the Calamity Sword. But from Chu Yang's words, why did it seem like that wasn't the case? It was just for a very long time. Mo Tianji was a little confused. Faintly, he understood. A strange feeling rose in his heart. Could it be that the upper 3 heavens wasn't the end? Chu Yang slowly stood up with a heavy expression. I've hidden my identity from you for so long. You should understand that I had no choice. But what I'm telling you today isn't just to reveal my hidden identity. I'm also going to tell you about the true legend of the Calamity Sword. Mo Tianji was shocked. He perked up his ears and sat up straight. Chu Yang said in a low voice, "Since ancient times, there's a saying that the one who has the calamity sword will have the world. There's another saying that the calamities of each generation are the big clans that will dominate the world in the future. So, everyone knows that as long as one becomes a calamity, one can bring glory to the clan for 10,000 years, and the calamity sword himself will become an eternal legend." Everyone nodded. That's right, everyone thought so, including the few of us. Wrong. Very wrong. Chu Yang said seriously. Wrong. Mo Tianji frowned. It's not wrong for calamity to become a big clan. It's also not wrong for him to become a legend. But calamity himself is wrong. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. For 10,000 years, 8 calamity sword masters were born, but as far as I know, the founders of the big clans weren't calamity's people but their children. And the calamity sword master and calamity disappeared without a trace. So, where did calamity go? Chu Yang slowly told the story of the calamity sword master and calamity, which had been covered up by history for 10,000 years. Everyone was moved. They didn't expect the legend of calamity to be so cruel and cruel. The calamity sword master betrayed calamity. The calamities of each generation were all used to mend the world. Chu Yang said, "Maybe you'll think that the calamity sword masters are all heartless. Including Wu Jueqing at the end of 40,000 years ago. Because of this, he stayed in the human world and wanted to take revenge on the calamity sword master. But this is a huge mistake and misunderstanding." Then, Chu Yang explained the real reason again. Jiyu Duxing's hands trembled a little. The other brothers were also moved by this. They didn't expect the real reason to be like this. Chu Yang concluded, "So, although the calamity sword masters and calamity had a great friendship, they were really a bunch of tragic people. For the sake of his brother, he had sacrificed his own life, yet he had allowed his brother to build his career in the other world with an eternal grudge against him. This is the sorrow of the calamity sword master. Their brothers gave up everything for them, but they still resented them. This is also the sorrow of calamity. They wanted to take revenge for an eternal misunderstanding, but in the end, they could only find out that they were wrong. But they still haven't come to their senses. And we can't bear to let people like Wu Jueqing come to their senses. How can this not be Wu Jueqing's sorrow? But you have to pay attention to one thing. Their sorrow is because they couldn't meet the final requirement. That's why we can't repeat the same mistake." Chu Yang sighed. "Now, I'm the calamity sword master, brothers, whether you like it or not, but because of me, you're really one of the calamities now." Jiyu Duxing and the others' breathing quickened. "It's our turn now." Chu Yang smiled. "Time will slowly prove what I said, but I'd rather say it first. So that you can be prepared. So, we can't repeat the old path of the calamity sword masters and calamity." Chu Yang took a deep breath. "So, we have to kill them directly. So, our goal is huge. Very far. This is our destiny." Chu Yang said deeply, "Brothers, we need to face our destiny together. I need your answer. What do you think? What do you think?" Chu Yang looked at them one by one solemnly. Jiyu Duxing smiled coldly and said indifferently, "Boss, the calamities in the past are the calamities in the past. They have their own destinies, but we are not them. I know that boss needs everyone's opinion, so I'm not speaking for the brothers here. I'm only speaking for myself." A smile like a spring breeze appeared on his cold and hard face. "Life and death follow you, that's all." Chu Yang's heart warmed, but his expression didn't change. His gaze turned to Mo Tianji. Mo Tianji smiled gently and elegantly. "I'm different from them. We have conditions. Don't forget your promise in the future to marry my sister Mo Qingwu and be my brother-in-law. As long as you do it, even if you're really sinister and vicious, I'm fine with it." Chu Yang's face stiffened. He rubbed his nose and coughed awkwardly. Ji Mo and Luo Kedi whistled at once. Everyone cheered. "I see." Jiyu Duxing made a rare joke. In order to have a military advisor, Boss sold himself to Little Wu. In order to have a brother-in-law, Mo Tianji sold himself to his brother-in-law. Everyone laughed at once. Chu Yang coughed awkwardly and put on a fierce face. Let's get down to business. It's your turn, Jimo grinned. I've never considered such complicated matters on my own. I've always been happy with myself. I feel very happy with my brothers, that's all. He revealed 2 rows of white teeth. I'll be happy even if I die. Luo Kedi patted him on the shoulder. Jimo is very shameless. This is clearly what I wanted to say. A warm smile appeared on Ao Sheun's face, but he said, we have the sword supremacy, the saber supremacy, the successor of the dragon race, the descendant of the phoenix, the calamity sword master, the master of manipulation and calculation, the military advisor. With the dragons and phoenixes roaring and the brothers united, we have the right time and the right people. I feel that such a team will definitely not fail. Since we won't fail, I love victory the most. Ao Sheun smiled. Even if we die, it'll be very satisfying. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,